Hey everyone, Pam Bam Rich here. Welcome back to the Tales of Marathon Stream 3. Final day with Tales of Berseria, and last part we just finished up the first half of the Zavid side quest with Aizen, and I'm going to wrap that up with the final boss fight for that side quest, and we'll move on to the final dungeon. Joining me today is Karani17, best known for the Karma Houdini channel and the Karma Houdini Gaming channel, and the Karma Houdini channel carries a lot of opinion videos, a lot of variety videos, including translation videos, and a wide variety of views you can see there, as well with on the other side of the spectrum. You can hear some of Karani's covers of several different video game material and other material as well, which are pretty good from what I heard. As well, you can also see the... Yeah, no, you're very well... I was listening to like the Persona 4 one, like the make or break history. I'm like, wow, this is pretty good. Yeah, that was pretty sick. I was like, it's cool to hear like metal and whatnot. Like Karma too, actually, I think you did. It was like pretty sick as well. I think that was all I was able to cover, as well with your Twitch account there, Karma Houdini _guitar. You could have a follow as well.
So, you're just waiting for me to die.
Yes, I think I got it. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, that about covers it. Hey everybody, yeah, I'm here. You can refer to me as Karma Houdini or Karani interchangeably, so don't get confused if you hear me referred to by two names. I'm a man of many names.
Fair enough, fair enough. Alright, so we're talking about Tales of Berseria here and whatnot. This is the last game of the marathon. This is all the last segment, last portion. With Berseria, what would you say are like your biggest things that you like to point out, the first that you hear about it and whatnot?
Well, Berseria, to me, like, I played it, I was just telling Richard before we went on stream live. Like, I played Berseria right when it came out in Japan. Like, I downloaded it onto my PS4 and played it in Japanese, and you know, I had a good time with it, but upon repeat playthroughs, because I've played it 3 times now, I felt like the gameplay is a bit lacking. It's fun initially, very you know, flashy and bombastic, but it lacks depth that I feel a lot of other games in the series have when it comes to the combat. And also it still sort of struggles with the issues that the whole PS3 era of Tales had with, you know, sort of boring fields and lackluster dungeons. But on the other hand, I think that the story was quite good and the characters were quite good, and I think it probably had the best story for a Tales game in a while before.
Yeah. The biggest part about it, like, definitely like the narrative, is keeping me forward with this as well as we go through this very long boss fight here, so we'll have a lot of time to talk about that. Basically, what would you say then would be like your biggest highlights of the narrative of this game then, as we're starting to wind down?
That's a good question. Well, I mean, when we get to the end, I'll point out some things about the ending, because I do think the ending's kind of cool. But I like how, you know, in this game, because this game sort of is a pair with Zestiria, I mean, you don't have to play both of them to enjoy, you know, the other, but because, you know, Zestiria came out first and I played that, and then I played this is sort of like the opposite of that, where your playable cast is sort of the opposition to what eventually becomes the Shepherds, you know? So I found that a very interesting twist for a sort of prequel follow-up game. And when it comes to Velvet, I know some people don't like her, and some people really like her. I'm in the camp that I liked her. I thought she was a pretty interesting protagonist. I like how she's a, you know, vengeful protagonist, but not in like the typical way. She starts off kind of typical, but then it sort of becomes a bit more nuanced towards the end. And basically, it's sort of like she carries on doing what she's doing because basically her family left her in the dark, you know, and she's upset about that, and she also wants to sort of clean up the mess her family started.
Yeah, like that's a big part of it. Like I remember, like we were just talking about this earlier, because we just went from Act 2 and Act 3 and how like Velvet learns about, I like to call it like Lapi Nominat, is what we've been calling him throughout the entire stream. But yeah. Lapi Nominat was the one, like, it was the big reveal. I don't think I didn't expect it. Did you expect that? I think many of us definitely didn't expect it.
I did not expect that. I did not expect him to come back like that. And that was a pretty cool twist. And it's also funny how he looks like Mythos, like that, that has to be on purpose.
I was thinking more like on the dolls. Like, if you played Fantasia on PSX, it felt more like that, which is what also the final boss is floating was inspired from.
Yeah, the final boss. Like, clearly, like, it just looks like Plume Douse at the end.
yes, Plume Douse. I forgot about that translation, but yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, like I really like the whole part where like Velvet is sort of mind broken, and then Laphicet pulls her out of it. Has that already happened at this point? Okay, yeah, that part is really, that part was really good. Like that's a great scene.
Yeah, it's so good, and like also I comment on it too because like it's like the moment where like Laphicet had like his whole like agency and whatnot being like becoming his own as opposed to being attached to just being Laphicet, Velvet's proxying for her brother or whatnot. So that's what sort of like redeemed Laphicet for myself in his entire arc of this game. As his fight.
Laphicet is a really good character as well. I mean, like, the whole party is good. I do feel there are a couple characters that sort of go underutilized, namely Magilu and Rokuro. I feel like Rokuro, you don't learn that much about him. He just sort of keeps to himself, and he just sort of is along for the ride, essentially, to fight his brother. Fights his brother, and then he's like, well, might as well help you guys finish off the journey, and then he pieces out. So it's like, I wish there was a part of the game where you actually got to see Rokuro's homeland. That probably would have been a really cool place. And on that note, like, we haven't had like a Tales game that's set in this sort of like feudal Japan area. We've had towns like Mizuho or whatever, right, in Spawner, but we've never had like a Tales game that's set in this sort of feudal Japan style world, which is kind of surprising to me. After 16, 17 games now with the Rise, they haven't done that.
Yeah, it's like they kind of like play around with the hero there, but yeah, that's a very good point. Like I felt like I didn't particularly have much to say about Rokuro, more like the same of what you mentioned and whatnot. Magilu, you kind of get it from like side material. There was like a book that came with this game's collector's edition, but otherwise, I think there's a side quest to do. I can't comment too much about the side quest. It's been so long since I played them myself.
There are side quests that sort of pertain to each character, but I feel like none of them go as in-depth as I would like. You get a little bit, and they all feel kind of lackluster because you just kind of like go to a place you've already been to, fight a monster, and get some exposition. That's how like most of the side quests go for these characters. Like I think there's a side quest where you fight Rokuro's like mom, who is turned into a what do they call the monsters?
Demons.
Yes, that's right. Sorry, I played this in Japanese, so I forgot the localized terms.
That's okay. Yeah, so Rokuro's mom, and honestly, because like that's the only side quest I really got to explore on my replay this year. So I didn't expect it was like a very similar trend between them all.
Yeah, and it's weird. Like, why is Rokuro's mom here? I don't know. It's because they didn't make a world map for Rokuro's homeland. That's why. So they just made some weird offhand excuse for her to be here.
Oh, unfortunate.
Honestly, it feels like Rokuro came from a totally different game and is just guest starring in this one. Like, I found his backstory to be really interesting. Like, his strife between him and his siblings, and his inferiority complex towards Shigure, and like him sort of framing his brother for stuff he didn't do. Like, there's so much cool stuff there, but it's just sort of all side information that doesn't actually have anything to do with the main plot of this game.
Yeah, kind of like that's a very big thing. That's a very good point you brought up, because like I mean, it kind of reminds me of like how like I don't know if you played Tempest, but Tokis is kind of like of that same caliber too. I'd like to say, like there is some intrigue there, but it just like I don't want to say like I want to have like a third game in this series because I just want to move on. But
oh yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to leave this behind. It is a little annoying that there's some unresolved plot threads, like the bonus dungeon in this game. Have you ever done that? It like basically says like there's like a heaven, and the seraphs in heaven basically put a curse on the world, and that's why there's malevolence and stuff. And it's just like, wow. So you tell us that, and then just leave it at that, and the game like the game's never actually resolved that. I guess the world is just doomed to repeat its cycle forever.
Isn't it meant to sort of connect to Zestiria with that, though? Because I heard there were, like, bits and pieces where they, like, reference some things to Zestiria here or there, particularly with the character that shows up in that dungeon in the other game, so... I think it's more so like an advertisement to say, play Zestiria or something.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it is a connection, but the thing is, even in Zestiria, they can't get rid of malevolence. And, like, I think that you know, that makes sense in you know, some way, but then in this bonus dungeon in Berseria, they're basically like, well, this is what caused this world to have it in the first place. It's like, well, I mean, if you're telling us there's a cause in that, like, sentient beings, you know, the seraphim or whatever in heaven caused it, then that kind of makes you feel like, well, maybe you could go there and tell them to get rid of it or beat them up or something.
I
you know, it's
I see.
I would have rather you not had told us that at all, so that we just think, oh, this is how the world works, rather than you telling us there's a cause, but never actually doing anything about it.
I see.
Like the party basically is just like, yeah, whatever. We don't have time to worry about that. Let's go fight Artorias.
Time and place. But I think, like, at least with, like, Laffy said, like, he sort of, like, becomes the character later on, which we'll get to once we get to after the final dungeon, of course.
Yeah.
Man, speaking of side quests, I do like this side quest specifically. I wanted to put in the marathon for this reason, because Zavid wasn't particularly a character I didn't have much to say about in Zestiria, but in this game, I'm like, holy smokes, Zavid means so much more here to me than in Zestiria, that's for sure.
Yeah, I do think this game really helps to ground him and give him... It kind of gives you a new context for his character in Zestiria. Because, like, I actually liked him in Zestiria, but I feel like him and other characters in Zestiria are very underutilized, very not fleshed out. Like, I know I was just complaining about that in this game, but in this game, it's way better than in Zestiria. Zestiria, like just look at Edna, for example. Her character has no purpose.
Break your Reaper's curse.
Like, she serves absolutely no purpose. They're like, hey, Edna, we need you to build a bridge.
Don't answer a question with another.
Cool, that's it. Like, that's it. She has no narrative purpose after that point. She's just there to be snarky and make fun of Mikleo, I guess. But, like, what? You know? And the whole reason she agrees to join is so that you will cure her brother, and then you don't even bother doing that at all. At no point during the main story do they even bother trying to do that, and then it's just a side quest at the end of the game. Like, all right, well, let's just go beat him up.
Yeah, they really should have put that into the main narrative. Like, something that I was like thinking about. They really should have put that, like, for the dragon for rising up as this random dragon we don't even know about.
Yeah, instead of Tiamat, like, they could have had Aizen involved in there or something. Like, Aizen just gets shafted in that game. Because like he's the whole reason Edna joins the party, and then it's just not resolved. It's not addressed at all. And then at the end, you can do an optional side quest to just basically kill him and shove him in the dirt. Like, it's messed up. It's not fair to Edna. It's not fair to Aizen.
I do like the personalities though. Like, the thing about the characters, like, I feel like it was less about the arcs of the characters, but more about like Soray's journey, I guess, at the end of the day, with that game.
Oh, like, I like the characters in Zestiria. I just think that they could have been written better. They deserved better. Like, you know. But yeah, I do actually. I mean, most Tales games, I'm going to enjoy the party dynamics, even if I don't think the story is well written.
She's like an early blooming flower.
Okay.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm drawn to the series, is that the characters always at least feel like they're alive. They feel like people. They talk to each other and stuff. Like, there's so many RPGs where the characters barely interact with one another. You know, they'll talk in their introductory cutscenes, and then they just follow you around silently, you know?
Right. Well, we do have a mention in the chat here. It looks like this side quest does mention bits and pieces about Edna with regards to it, but I guess, like, in the game itself, it does sort of, like, lead itself to more being subtle, I suppose, compared to not as pronounced and explored in this game. But yeah, with regards to Soray's journey, I don't particularly mind it when I, like, replay it again this year, especially with, like, Berseria. Like, playing Berseria certainly helped playing Zestiria, like, revisiting it again both. But I think, like, for your case, I'm guessing you played the Berseria 3 times in a row? And
not in a row, but just 3 times total.
I'll remember it.
Okay. And did you revisit Zestiria during any of those times too?
I've played Berseria 4 times, unfortunately.
I see. So you have a preference for Berseria more over Zestiria, but Zestiria is not quite as bad as you'd say compared to what other people would hound it for, or feel free to correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't know, like Berseria, like I played it. Well, one of the reasons I replay these games a lot is because I love the co-op feature. By the way, I'm sad it's not in Arise.
Yeah.
Because that's a huge thing I enjoy in the series. But other than that, I'm looking forward to Arise. But yeah, I play them with different people, so that often causes me to replay them. So like this series, I played it, actually imported it, the PS3 version, because that's all that existed in Japan at the time, and then I played it when it came out here in the West on PC, and then I played it with a family member and then with a friend. So that was the 4 playthroughs. And so I don't think I would have played Berseria 4 times if I was playing by myself. I think I would have just stopped at the 2 solo playthroughs.
I see.
But yeah, it's weird because like there are things I liked about Berseria, but obviously there's a lot of things I did not like about it. And it's a really rough game overall. It's rough around the edges. The story just doesn't really tie together properly. The writing doesn't make sense a lot of the time. Rose, even though she's my favorite character in the party, I will objectively say she's poorly written and poorly handled in the game.
Okay.
Even though I like her, she's just like a sociopath, and everybody's just cool with that for some reason. But like I don't know. I feel like Arise is probably going to be what I wanted Berseria to be, you know?
Okay.
Like, yeah, like Berseria was disappointing. I think that's the biggest way to put it, because Berseria was the first Tales game where I followed the entire hype train from its announcement all the way to its release. Because before Berseria, I mean, I'd played a lot of the games, but I wasn't like following the news every new piece of news and everything. But with Berseria, I did that. I was super excited to play it, and then I played it. And when I started off, I was kind of excited, but as I got further and further into the game on that first playthrough, by the end, I was kind of deflated.
Right, yeah. I remember having that feeling too when I first played Zestiria. Like, it didn't. What I was looking for, like, because like it also didn't help that I played like 3 Tales games prior to it, so maybe like the impressions could have been a bit better if I hadn't played 3 Tales games prior to. But at least when I revisit it now, I didn't think it was so bad. But I'm guessing opinions between those 4 playthroughs have been very consistent.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so rough around the edges. It clearly had a troubled development, and like there's information on record proving that they had developmental issues and struggles when they were making the game. I believe they had to like scrap stuff and start almost from scratch at one point. There was a lot of outsourcing, so they had to outsource a lot of the work to outside developers. They lost some members from the team. Like it's clearly a struggle. It was a struggle to make the game in the first place. But they still put it out. But I don't know. Like the gameplay. Like one of the issues I have with it. I mean, there are a lot of issues I have with it. But one of the issues I have with it from a gameplay perspective is the combat is just kind of a worse version of Graces to me. I know some people like Berseria more than Graces in terms of gameplay. I don't really understand that, but to each their own. But like, I was actually disappointed when we heard that the gameplay was going to be based off of Graces, because this was after Exilia 2, and Exilia 2 had such awesome combat to me. And so I was like, oh man, well, I mean, I still like Graces' combat a lot. So, I'll be fine with that. It was just like Graces, but with new movesets. But then it's like a much more limited version of Graces. You can't do nearly as much. And everything just sort of revolves around the fusing, and then there's the camera issues. Especially in the first version of the game, before they patched it and made like the ports and stuff. That boss fight where Mikleo joins you and like you first fuse with him?
Yeah.
You're in the hallway. like I remember playing that the first time, and the camera got stuck inside the wall, and I almost died because I couldn't see anything at all, and I was just like, yeah. The game is very. I mean, it's not a good look. It's sort of an embarrassment in some fashions, but I don't know. I still played it 4 times.
Okay. I was just kind of like thinking because like I forgot like the PS3 because like it was first released on PS3, so I can only imagine. I never played the PS3 version myself, but I definitely did hear about the feedback and whatnot with regards to it, and I was like, oh, I'll keep an open mind. But then like when the camera came in, I eventually felt like I could fix it around, and apparently like I heard like with multiplayer you can kind of rotate it around. Like would you
Yes.
say yeah?
Very strangely, if you play multiplayer, I forget whether it's player 1 or player 2, but one of them can move the camera with the right stick, but only in multiplayer.
That's so weird. Like that should be something like for the single player to use as well. But
Well, clearly they thought about that for Berseria and Arise, but yeah.
clearly. But oh my goodness, that really could have fixed everybody's impressions from the beginning. Because camera is such a huge thing for me. So I'm happy. Well, I'm happy that it's like different now. But back then, it's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this was like it made it through at first, you know. But again, there's a way to like get around it and whatnot. I can't comment with regards to Graces for Zesty though, because it's been so long since I last played Graces. So, but yeah, with the connections that you're making with Zesty to Graces, I think one thing I do want to say about Zesty is that they kind of like did better for using the linking to make more sense, because like when it comes to like Exilia 1, Exilia 2, like the linking I'm not particularly fond of, because it feels like it's just, oh, you have to do it right away, but you also lose like your friends to join in with you, kind of like if you're playing multiplayer. Whereas like with Armatization, yeah, you're still doing the same thing, but you also like essentially there's a reason to get out of Armatization, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I'm just glad that we ditched that mechanic because it got in the way of multiplayer. But then again, Arise just got rid of multiplayer anyway, so I don't know. But like the amortization, I feel my issue with it is that in most, like in too many cases, it was the optimal way to play was to fuse and stay fused for a long time, and then also. Yeah, if you're playing with one other person, which I have done, as I mentioned earlier, I've done Berseria playthroughs with other people, but only one other person at a time. Because if you try to do it more than that, well, then somebody's going to be not playing for most of the time because you need to fuse.
Yep.
And it was the same thing in the Exilias, where I only play those with one other person at a time. Trying to do those with 3 or 4 players, no way. It's not really gonna work well. But I didn't mind the linking in the Exilias too much, but again, like I'm glad we've moved past those mechanics. I just hope multiplayer comes back in the game after Arise.
Yeah, I hope so too. Honestly, multiplayer coming back after Rise would be fantastic. Because like you, I always would play the Tales games with like other friends and whatnot, and I still was really frustrated like with like Tales of Exilia 1 when it's like you have to link with other people. It's like, oh, sorry, buddy, I have to link with you, so put down the controller for a bit. And it's like, really don't like doing that as much as
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of got it down to a rhythm. Like, so usually, like, we would play the character we want to play, right? And then we would link to a computer. And then it's like, okay, I need to take that computer for you. We would just communicate out loud. Like, oh, I need to take Rowan for a second. Okay, sure, go. Then I'll link to Rowan, do the link to her, and then we can switch back to our original partners if we want. Or if I need to link to the character my friend is playing, I was like, I need to link to you for a second. And then I'll link to them, do the art, and then we'll switch back. It actually is far less... Sure, it is sort of cumbersome when you think about it in some level, but like I was just so fast at doing it that you didn't really lose too much playtime at all.
Yeah, I guess because like for me and my circle of friends, we barely really like meet up as often as we can because time is of the essence. But so that's why we always have to like relearn things, and we sort of like have to. Oh wait, what's happening? Oh, we slowed down for a bit to sort of like figure things out a bit before we have to like unlink and link again. But yeah, for like longer sessions, I can see it definitely being conditioned to it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see here, Velvet. Also, I'm going to see if we can get up the question right away, because we are getting into the final dungeon. Like I said, we may end off a little bit early, because, yeah, I can't think of any other side quests to do at this time. This final boss segment, final dungeon segment, might go for, like, maybe 90 minutes or 2 hours altogether. So I apologize for those who were expecting to end around 10 o'clock, but, yeah, I didn't expect us to go
Have you
this
done
quickly.
Eleanor's side quest already?
I have not, but what I'm gonna do
It's
is
up to
that
you.
yeah, we're gonna do the final boss first. I'm gonna see how we could feel in terms of time and whatnot. Like similarly to like
Yeah.
how I handled it in Tales of Eternia, where that final boss really I don't
You
want
know,
to
I
revisit it
still
again.
haven't. I've still never finished Eternia. I need to do that.
Please do.
I have a playthrough that's like going on off and on. Like for a lot of the older Tales games, I've been playing them off and on for years and just haven't finished them. But I do
Right.
need to like because I finished every game in the series at least once, except for Eternia, Destiny 2, Rebirth, and I guess technically Legendia because I'm in the character quest part of Legendia now, but I finished the main part.
Right.
So
right.
yeah, I still need to finish those 4 games because I've never finished those 4. It's funny, 'cause I've been playing Rebirth since 2013, and I haven't finished it.
Oh man, that's
And
such
it's,
a
and it's not because I don't like it. I actually really like it. There's no reason for it to have taken this long.
oh man, that's such a mood. Like I used to like game jump all the time. Like for me, Rebirth, like it was like I started around 2015, I finished it in 2019. So I kind of know what you mean with regards to like leaving it for a while and not coming back to it.
The problem is, I guess I don't play like my PS2 in 2021. You know, so it's like I never think about playing my PS2. If Namco, if you port the games, I probably would finish it way sooner. It's on a modern system. Like if I had Rebirth on the Switch, I would have finished it already.
Yeah, I think that's such a common thing, but I think right now they're kind of getting a bit better. I mean, for pacing of like, all right, let's say this. Like, what's the first time you played what was your first Tales game? Out of curiosity.
Symphonia in 2004.
Okay, so you kind of get the idea as to like how long things take essentially to get out as like a longtime Tales fan. So compared to back then and now, it feels like the pace is much better with an asterisk on top of it. You know?
Yeah, I mean, like back then, we never knew if we were going to get a game whenever it got announced. It would be like, oh, they announced a new Tales game? Well, now we have to wait like a year to see if they'll even mention bringing it over to the West. And then half of them just wouldn't get announced for the West.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so good that we're past that. That's for sure.
Yeah. And then when Vesperia came out, after that, we got nothing for 3.5 years, pretty much, until Graces finally came over.
I mean, technically Dawn came out, so it's after Dawn, I like to say, that's when
Did
it
Dawn
happened.
come out after Vesperia? I know they were the same
Yes.
year.
Yes, it did.
Okay. Oh, that's right. I think Dawn was around November in the West, and Vesperia was August everywhere.
Yep.
2008. But yeah, I mean, Dawn is sort of like a spin-off sequel kind of thing. But and also, I mean, I don't know what your feelings are on Dawn and Vesperia, but I vastly prefer Vesperia to Dawn of the New World.
I understand why Vesperia would be the first to be remembered, but you know,
Yeah.
we're just kind of playing like the technically card, so
Yeah. It was not a favorable comparison to have Vesperia come out and then be followed up a couple months later by Dawn of the New World. I remember playing it and being like, dang, yeah, I'm just gonna go back to playing Vesperia.
I understand. For me, I'm kind of indifferent about Dawn, but it sounds like you're not a particular fan of that game.
Well, for context, Symphonia is my favorite Tales game. So, Dawn of the New World being such a lackluster game in general and being an even worse sequel, in my opinion. Like, it would already just be sort of a mediocre Tales game if it had nothing to do with Symphonia. But it's also a bad sequel. A bad sequel to my favorite game in the series. So it's just like, I don't have positive feelings towards it. Because if it was just its own thing, at least I could just sort of be like, yeah, whatever. But because it actively comes along and attaches itself to something better than it, just basically for money. Like, let's be honest. Like, Dawn of the New World was kind of a cash grab. They're like, Symphonia was popular. Let's just phone in a quick sequel, and like they rushed it out the door. They couldn't even finish the world map. They literally said, "Oh, we didn't have time to do the world map, so it's just a point-and-click menu."
Yeah, if you
It just
didn't,
feels
Griffin could get us
lazy.
up there.
Yeah, if you didn't start off with a Symphonia, then Dawn New World would seem like an okay game, like for folks and whatnot. But it's certainly, I do agree with you the fact that it's definitely not a good sequel to Symphonia, especially when all the levels are like capped and whatnot at level 50.
The original cast is just treated as like like guest stars, and like they have the whole monster taming system. It's like I didn't want to tame monsters. I wanted to play the characters that I liked, and the story doesn't have anything to do with the first game at all. It's just sort of a tacked on. Well, we just had to make up something, because that's the other thing. Symphonia is a very complete story. It is it ties up the loose ends. It is, you know, one and done, self-contained narrative. And so, how do you make a sequel to it? I don't know. We just make shit up, and that's what they did. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse. I'll avoid doing so. Yeah, they just made stuff up, you know. And so it's just like, it was like the Centurions and stuff that has nothing to do with anything. And then Sheena is there, and like if she had the summon spirits, they could solve the problem in like a minute. And so she's just like, oh, sorry, I can't use the summon spirits. I'm not allowed to in this game. You know, it's yeah. I mean, if people like Dawn of the New World, it like that doesn't offend me. It's just for me, I didn't like it.
Yeah, I hear you. Like, what are words I'm looking for right now? Like, yeah, I mean, Dawn could have, like, there's a lot of Tales games with the sequels that it kind of works, but not really. I think Tales of Destiny 2 is a good sequel, but that's just me, because, like, I don't know if you played DC or PS1 Tales of Destiny, but I played
DC.
Oh, okay. I feel like for me, like, there's a bit more of an effect for me when I never played DC yet, so I played Tales of Destiny on PS1, and then playing Tales of Destiny 2 on PS2 is like, oh wow, it answered a lot of questions I was like missing in like PS1 version, so that's why I feel like it kind of like helps in a whole sequel sort of sense. And I don't know if I could say, oh, play Tales of Destiny 1 on PS1 before playing Tales of Destiny on PS2.
Yeah, like, that's a hard sell to a modern audience. Destiny PS1 is rough. Like, I've touched it before, but I don't know if I could ever make it all the way through that version.
That's fair. I still have a soft spot for it for different reasons, but I understand why not a lot of people particularly like it.
Did you play it back when it originally came out?
No, I played it it was voted for the second marathon, so I had to go through it, and I enjoyed it, really, because like it had its own quirks and everything, being an old school PS1 game and whatnot. So I particularly liked playing it and realizing it and all that, and it kind of has a bit of a soft spot, but battle system-wise, you can tell that like it's certainly going through the motions, that's for sure.
I see some people in the chat saying that the writing is slightly better in PS1 Destiny than in the remake. That's interesting. But I do recall that the PS1 translation for Destiny is a little spotty, so I asked if that gets in the way of like the quality of the writing.
Oh yeah, you know what? Yeah, you do have like a good grasp of the Japanese language, so it might be a good idea to play it in PS1 Japanese version. Because like when it comes to the PS1 localization, it certainly took some liberties here or there. But I still have a soft spot for it, but I know people who would sort of like not particularly like that kind of like approach. So I suppose that's up to your preference.
I do definitely recommend playing DC at some point, since you haven't. It's fun, although I think my biggest gripe with Destiny is the dungeons in the last third of the game are awful. And I think that's true in both versions from what I can tell. They're just they're such a slog to get through. So long, they're like maze-like, and you get lost, you don't know.
You know what? In PS1, I kind of give it the pass because I kind of give it like the whole, oh, it's quirky, it's cool, but we'll see how I feel about it in DC at the very least. Like, I think like it's like a common, like, you haven't played Destiny 2, you haven't played Rebirth, but you played DC. Okay.
Well, I mean, I haven't finished Rebirth.
Oh,
Destiny
I see.
But I do have current ongoing playthroughs going on both games. Right. Destiny 2 is a lot of fun as well. I do like it. It is kind of weird going from DC to Destiny 2 though, because DC is newer, but Destiny 2 is the sequel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like it's like this is a sequel to to the game I played, but the game I played is newer than the sequel.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why it kind of adds more to it, where it's like, it feels like Tales of Destiny 2 is particularly a more intriguing sequel for PS1, but again, I can't particularly fully comment on it once I get around to DC eventually, because I definitely heard good things about it, but also opinions where it's like, it didn't do too well as like a foundation against going towards Destiny 2 afterwards.
Yeah, because I mean, they do change things in the PS2 version of Destiny.
Yeah.
Like, so they change certain things in like how the story goes and whatnot. So there'll be some discrepancies, is what I've heard.
Yeah, and
Like,
then
for one thing,
sorry.
Leon's characterization. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, keep going.
Yeah, but like for one thing, I've heard is that Leon's characterization is different in the remake than it was in the original. Like he's more, I guess, prickly and less. What's the word I'm looking for?
Less reflective, something along those lines. I'm not quite sure.
I can't find the word I'm looking for. Like less. You don't empathize with Leon as much in the PS1 version. I guess is what I'm trying to say. That's what I've heard.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you know what? I could kind of like say that. I think like
PS1 Leon's a jerk.
Yeah. Well, there you see how the chat like responds to it and whatnot. But like, I can kind of see that reflection with regards to Leon. Yeah, he certainly does sort of gives a bit of that vibe. And when it comes to Tales of Destiny 2, he has more reason for what he does and why he does it. So the effect is lost if you don't have that impression of him. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's like I'm sure like his character being more warm in Destiny 2 feels like more of a drastic thing if you've only played, the original Destiny. Yes. Whereas in the remake of Destiny, you start to see him kind of become a bit more warm before he goes away, and like he sort of becomes sort of a male tsundere. He's by no means like a super happy, chipper, like, hey guys, what's up? He's not like that in the remake or anything, but he's less prickly from what I understand. Yeah.
Bottom line, play Tales of Destiny either way, but it is going to be curious to see like the particular different responses because of the fact that like not too many people are like too keen on playing the PS1 version, which I still push for my own like preference and agenda, but it's all up to you. It's all up to you at the end of the day.
I mean, why not play both if you can? I do intend to play the PS1 version at some point. Just gotta make sure I don't do that thing where if you give Woodrow the Sorcerer's Ring and he leaves.
Oh, yeah! Don't do that.
I've heard about that.
I didn't hear about that, but that. Oh my goodness! That is. Oh no! Is that gonna be? Is it a game lock? Are you locked out?
You're basically screwed unless you have a save to reload before that, Because back then the Sorcerer's Ring was an equipable item, so if you put it on a character, they leave the party, they take it.
Oh my gosh! I'm still trying to process that. I have to look at my notes here to know where to go. Holy smokes!
Well, playtesting wasn't a big thing back then.
No, apparently not. But oh my. I'm so glad. I feel like I dodged a bullet. Like that's how it feels like for me right now. Yeah. Like that could have happened to me during the marathon, but I'm so glad it didn't. Oh man, that's insane.
Yeah, old school RPGs and their crazy, game lock situations and obtuse ways of continuing the game and all that.
Speaking of which, you said that you played through like Eternia here and there, but haven't fully finished, or you haven't picked it up at all.
I've not finished Eternia.
Oh, okay.
I'm in like the Celestia part of the game, and I remember doing like the battleship stuff and things like that. That's where I left off. I think it's been like 2 years since I last played.
Yeah, because like with that game, I'm gonna say like the only issue that I had with it was like the end boss. Have you heard stories about that?
Yeah, I've heard it's kind of BS.
Yeah,
it can be frustrating.
Yeah, and we just learned I mentioned this before in the marathon, but basically, when I played it, we ran into a bit of an odd PSP glitch. Maybe it's just PSP. I don't know if it's in PS1 too. But basically, if you retry the battle, you're not gonna have a scenario where you can use the skill that heals you, basically. So you're kind of really screwed even more. And
Wait, so you get like bugged out of using like the Aurora wall or whatever it is?
Yeah. It's more like the boss ends up not using the move to let you use it, and it's more like it ends up replacing you with a spell you see in like the highest difficulty. So I don't know what happened there. I lost so much time during the final boss, but it was not fun to discover during the PSP version. Hope you're not playing the PSP version, but if you
I
are,
am playing the PSP version because I wanted to play it undubbed because I know some people have a soft spot for it, but I'm sorry, the Eternia English dub is terrible to me.
no.
It is very bad.
You don't like Sly Cooper? You don't like Sly Cooper as Reed Herschel?
I mean, it's a very dry performance, but Reed doesn't bother me that much actually in English. It is Keel. Keel English voice is terrible. He sounds like he's like holding his nose and like just like the way he says fireball. So he's like fireball.
Oh dear.
He sounds so funny, but yeah, the English dub for that game is rough. But, I mean, it was 2001. English dubs in video games were not very good back then.
I still have a soft spot for it. Even though, like, if I played through it twice, I definitely got really nitpicky over it. But, yeah, I think, like, the thing about the voice acting I like to say is that, like, I think the voice cast is good. It's just that they needed better direction. And I think they were more so, like, confined to the direction that's, like, the standard of voice acting dubs at the time. It just...
I don't feel like most of them are very good actors either, to be honest. But like that's just my personal opinion. I am known to be somewhat nitpicky about voice acting in games. But like I mean, Tales dubs have come a long way from then. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. Because I do recall that you say that you play the games more in Japanese than in English.
Nowadays, for sure, yeah. I mean, obviously, back when like I played Symphonia in 2004, I played the English version. Back then, I didn't know any Japanese. But,
yeah. I was just gonna ask, like, which ones out of like the English dubs would you say are like the most as your best or your favorite that you heard?
I think my favorite English dub is Vesperia's original English dub. The Definitive Edition obviously has the same voice work, but then it has the new voice work, and that gives me mixed feelings because I have my ears are very attuned to people's voices, so it is very jarring for me whenever Yuri and Judith's English voices switch in the Definitive Edition. It stands out very strongly. It doesn't like completely ruin it for me, but it does stand out. And even for the returning voice actors, I can tell when it's a new line most of the time because they just sound different. I mean, it's been 10 years, so your voice is going to be different, performance is going to be different. So I almost feel like they should have redubbed the whole game, but obviously Demco didn't want to spend that kind of localization budget.
I was also thinking like... Sorry, go on.
But yeah, Vesperia, though, is my favorite dub.
Okay. I guess, like, for me, like, this topic had come up several times during the Vesperia portion, which I kind of wish I had you there. But, sorry, I'm more so to say, like, I feel like it would have been, because I think, like, I'd say that Vesperia is probably, like, your favorite, or which game would you say is your favorite with regards to the series in general?
Oh, it's Symphonia, hands down.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No contest. Like, Vesperia is high up there, because, like, Vesperia edges out Symphonia in terms of the amount of content, the depth and flexibility of the combat. But I still think Vesperia has one of the deepest combat systems in the series. It takes a while to learn it, and most players are just gonna kind of casually go through once and leave it at that, and that's fine. But like if you want to learn stuff, you can do a lot. But there's just so much content. But yeah, Symphonia is my favorite because Symphonia has a way better story in my opinion than Vesperia. Vesperia's story is kind of all over the place.
Yeah, I think the one thing about it is that I kind of I like Act 2 most, but then because it feels so bloated. It's what the thing is. Like, I like Act 2, Act 1, Act 3, but basically Act 2 is pretty much where I felt shine, whereas Symphonia, I guess, is a bit more of a... I played that game way too many times. I don't think I have too much more to add for Symphonia personally, but comparing it to Vesperia, maybe might have been not as bloated, I like to say, is
Yeah,
the term I use.
yeah, I feel like Symphonia carries through its themes from beginning to end, right? It has a message, it has multiple messages, has multiple themes, and it carries all of them through to the end. Vesperia does not. Vesperia sets up themes and then it just discards them or pretends that they were resolved when they weren't. Because like, what is Vesperia's theme? Well, probably the vigilantism versus like law kind of conflict, but that conflict is never actually resolved because Flynn never does anything at any point, really. He's just like, Yuri, you shouldn't do that, and that's it. And then later they just sort of fight in the Fury Sparks plays, and then they're pals, and nothing. They never have a discussion about it again. You know what I mean? Like that theme never gets resolved, and then all of a sudden it's an environmental plot. Like, we got to save the world from the technology and get rid of technology, and we're not going to actually address how. Well, like mentioned offhand, like the world is probably going to be screwed now because we've gotten rid of the technology we rely on. But we'll make it work somehow. But the game's over, so we don't have time to even address it or think about it. Like, don't get me wrong, I love that game, but the story doesn't really carry through the stuff it sets up.
You heard about the writer scenario about that, right? Like how there's like 3 different writers that handle that game?
Yes, and it really feels like it.
Yeah.
It feels like 3 different plots thrown into one game, and so like the first 2 plots don't really feel resolved or connected, and then the third one comes in and it's a different plot, and then it's the end of the game, and then they finish it. Yeah, but I love that game. But yeah, Symphonia, I feel like the story actually concludes. It all the themes are concluded and resolved, and it's a nice like bow tie, around the whole thing. So that's why that edges it out.
I see. All right. I'm gonna have to do this before I forget. We're gonna get the final question going for the Tales of Marathon Stream 3 giveaway. If you haven't heard about it for the first time, visit bit.ly, capital TOMS3, lowercase giveaway. You'll find the rules there. You'll be able to get at least 1 entry if you join in today by answering the question on screen by following the link that you'll see beside the question as well. The giveaway includes a Tales of Arise Collector's Edition, a Tales of Berseria Collector's Edition, this game, Tales of Symphonia Chronicles Collector's Edition, Tales of Exilia 1 Collector's Edition, and the Tales of Exilia Japanese PS3. So yeah, 40 minutes to answer the question. We'll see if we can get this in before the end of the final dungeon or final boss. We'll see. But the question is, in what year was Tales of Berseria localized? Your timer starts now. Alright, so more about Symphonia. Like, you did bring up some very good points, I like to say, with regards to Symphonia and Vesperia and whatnot, and that's some very good perspectives that were provided. Jeez, when it comes to Symphonia, like, when I look back at it, like, it's still, like, I feel like it's still, like, maybe do I have any, like, first game bias every now and then? Because, like, I think I played the game, like, maybe more than, like, 7 or 8 times myself.
Okay, so that one was also your first?
Yeah. Symphonia is also my first as well.
What's your favorite, by the way?
What's my favorite? Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure, because this... Sorry, have you been through this final dungeon? This final dungeon, you can get lost very easily, so I want to make sure.
Yeah, it's been a while since I played through this dungeon, but yeah, it can be confusing.
Yeah,
Wait,
the only reason...
Did you get that thing? What was that yellow thing?
You only need those for level 3 Mystic Arts. We're not getting level 3 Mystic Arts.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we could... Maybe... But I don't know. We're already, like, at this point in the game. Like, I'm so used to routing just, like, going through it all that, I don't think I, find myself, being flexible with my routing is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. But I guess, like, for my favorite game, I would definitely say, I don't... Here's the thing. Like... I can't really pick one. I only go by tier list, basically. So, like, in my top tier, I like to give it to Rebirth, Legendia, Incesar, Heartsar, and I guess I have to pick a 5th, Eternia. Because we were talking about top 5s last night, so it's a little bit more fresh in my memory. But yeah, of those 5, like 2 of them like legit Rebirth I particularly like because of their narratives, whereas like Innocence R and Hearts R I like because of their gameplay. But if I were to pick something with regards to Eternia, well, I usually that's like a tier 2 for me. So like when I think about it like in terms of adding it to the tier 1, you know, it's so old school. It's 2D, it's classic. Narrative, gameplay, talking about narrative, things like that essentially. Yeah, and that's pretty much like the gist of my tiers. Like, you gave a lot for like Symphonia, but what other games come to mind for you, like as like top tier or something along those lines, or second or third?
Yeah, I mean it's hard for me to let me think. So like obviously Symphonia is my favorite. In fact, Symphonia is my favorite video game.
Ooh,
not just
really?
my favorite Tales game, not just my favorite RPG. Yeah, Symphonia is my favorite video game.
Nice.
So that obviously takes the top spot. Vesperia would definitely be in the top tier for all the reasons I mentioned before. Like the game has so much content, so much to delve into when it comes to the combat and gameplay. Game looks good, has a great English dub, it has pretty good music. Aside from that, I do really like Innocence R a lot. That gameplay is great. The characters, I really like the family sort of vibe they've got. If I have one complaint about Innocence R, actually I have 2 complaints. One is that it's a bit short. I like the game so much I wish it was a little bit longer because it's on the shorter side for a Tales game. And the other complaint is that because it is tied to, you know, the Vita, there's no like
multiplayer.
Nobody's played it, and you can't do multiplayer. The game kind of looks like trash visually. It looks like a polished PS1 game.
I wouldn't go that far. I'd say like maybe like PS 1.5, close to PS2.
PS 1.5. Yeah, it is like a low end PS2 game in terms of visuals. But yeah, I love that game. It's great. Hearts R I don't like as much as Innocence R. So I've got Vesperia, Symphonia, and Innocence R up there. I'm trying to think. What else do I really like in this series? Because for some series, it's like, for some games in the series, it's like, I really like this aspect, but maybe not that aspect. Like, for example, Chilia 2. Like, if I were to talk about, like, my favorite combat systems in the game, in the series, rather, for 3D games, it would be Chilia 2, Vesperia, and Innocence R. Those are my 3 favorite for the 3D. And then you can also throw in Graces. But, for 2D, it would be, like, Destiny Remake, Narukiri Dungeon X.
Nice.
I'm not sure. I can't decide between Destiny 2 and Rebirth which one I like the combat of more. But you know, like yeah. So it's kind of hard to say as a overall experience, but I can like separate them by category, like favorite story or favorite gameplay and things like that. Because each one I'll like one aspect more than another aspect.
Yeah, like pretty much.
Yeah,
like
definitely. The top tiers are like Symphonia, Vesperia, Innocence R.
Yeah, that's good. Like honestly, like I'm on the same boat. That's why I kind of like went less with like talking about like my absolute favorite. Like you're able to do it fine, which is like more power, like a lot of power to you. Like for me, it's like it's kind of hard to like for me to narrow things down. Like there's like there's things like the narrative, but not the gameplay, and things like the gameplay, but not about the narrative. It's all just like a sort of like a hogwash, I like to say. Part of me as I try to figure out where I'm going, because I feel like now I'm getting a little bit lost here. What to do?
Sure. Yeah, you open the map, press square, or whatever the button is.
The map don't work too well. There's like a certain order you gotta do things, so I need to like backtrack to where I last was, and then like look at my notes and see exactly where I'm going, because it's easy to get lost here. You're gonna be running about like one of the Abyss's dungeons. Like I certainly do remember Abyss's dungeon as I keep looking at this set piece and everything, but Yeah, like because
Actually, doesn't this place remind you of the Absorption Gate or whatever it was called?
yeah,
in
yeah,
Abyss?
that's exactly what I'm talking about. The Abyss's dungeon there, the Absorption
Yeah.
Gate. I couldn't remember the name because it's been way too long since I played Abyss, but yeah, it's totally Absorption Gate vibes. Thankfully, you don't have to hear that song looping over and over again.
At least it's not the Verona Catacombs.
Oh no!
Dun, 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 dun. Like I swear, Sakuraba was just like not happy that day. They probably were like, hey, we need another soundtrack. Can you just whip it out in like 10 minutes? Here's 100 yen. He's like, are you serious? All right, fine. This is what you get. And then he made the Verona Catacombs.
100 yen. Oh my gosh. Hold on, I gotta make sure I'm reading my notes properly though. I'm very sorry. Okay, so something about breaking a crystal, then take the right teleport to get back to screen 8? I did this like so flawlessly during my last practice. Like, oh, 30 minutes? Yeah, we cleared this dungeon just fine. But here it's like, oh no, where am I going? I think I know where I'm going. I know it's been 5 years for you, but yeah, this dungeon doesn't seem memorable for you at all? Like, you don't remember, like, getting lost here or something along those lines?
Like, it's easier when, obviously, you're not, like, trying to have a conversation and entertain a chat stream. I mean, a stream chat.
Right.
Yeah, like, I don't have this game memorized. Like, if you were in Symphonia, I could tell you where to go with your eyes closed.
Yeah. Okay, there's a crystal I have to break. I went down 2 holes. I did that now. I have to take a right teleport to go back to
Melina or Milena says, I wish they brought in another composer or that Sakuraba tried different things. Well, with Arise, I think the soundtrack is going to be good. At least based on the demo. It sounds really good. And like they have a live orchestra this time, so even though it's still Sakuraba, I think the music sounds a lot more, alive. His music sounds a lot more inspired this time. I think we're going to have a pretty good soundtrack in Arise.
They're giving Sakuraba more free will, I like to say, compared to games in the past where it's like, do it in a Tales style. It's like, oh, but I want to do Baten Kaito, so here's Baten Kaito's in the Tales game now, basically, with what Arise is. Did you not hear that too? I thought it was like straight up Baten Kaito's the first time I heard that battle theme.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, it is very Baten Kaito's like.
Yeah.
There's actually another game I never finished.
I haven't finished it, but I heard things about the soundtrack being like really good, so that's why I was like,
yeah. I mean, even from what I had played as a kid, I remember loving the soundtrack.
yeah, there's just something about it. It's like when you hear Sakuraba go off, like even like I played like Residence of Fate like all the way through, so even that game's like, wow, Sakuraba, you wowed in here. Like where are we at for like the Tales of games? But thankfully, it looks like Arise is going to be doing it.
Yeah, you can tell when he's feeling it. I mean, I feel like with Tales, they were boxing him into a corner, and they also probably weren't giving him much of a budget to work with. Because, like, this time he's doing a live orchestra, that has to be expensive, He has to hire live musicians to play all the parts he wrote. So they must have given him a much bigger budget this time.
Yeah, and that's, like, the worst part, particularly, because, like, I feel like he gets way too much flack that he deserves, because it's not his fault, really, I like to say.
Yeah, I mean... you also have to think about how many games he's made music for. Like, I'm a musician myself. I can't imagine writing music for like 100 games. Like, I feel like I would just run out of ideas, So I'm sure you can't force inspiration. So I'm sure there are times where he has to make music for a game, but he's not feeling particularly inspired. So, but he still has to make something.
Yeah.
And
like,
with how frequently the Tales games were coming out for a while, I'm sure like it was hard.
It must have been really. Yeah, because it must have been really hard because, like, all the times, like, I know, we're just gamers, we're just talking, we're just providing opinions, but, like, you're thinking from, like, a musician's perspective, where it's, like, you're gonna hear, like, a lot of, like, gamers who are eating what they're fed, but don't know what the chef does behind the kitchen, so it's just, it really just bothers me when it's, like, do you not know what goes behind the scenes for, like, being a musician or something? Like, I get it, you could respond to it, have a reaction, but it's just really unfortunate for Sakuraba, particularly when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, people like to, point the finger or play armchair executive. I mean, just look at what happened with Asteria. People crucified Hideo Baba as though every decision about the game was made by him, or like he programmed the game, or he wrote the script, or whatever. He didn't do any of those things. He was the producer and like a PR guy.
Yeah. Poor Baba. Poor Baba, I gotta say.
Yeah, he was the scapegoat for Assyrian's poor reputation.
Yeah. And I heard his most recent endeavor didn't go too well either, so I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, that's
with him.
right. Like, he went to, I think, Square Enix, and then he opened, like, Project Estolia Studio or whatever it was, and then that game got canceled, and now I don't know where he is or what he's doing. That kind of sucks. I was actually hoping that that game would come to fruition, because, like, I was hoping we would have, like, a sort of two separate Tales series almost, you know what I'm saying? Like, that would have been cool.
Yeah, honestly, like, the guy really did a lot for, like, the West. Like, you can say what you want about him, like, especially with, like, you know, him being, like, taking all that flack and whatnot from other people, but, like, really, he really did a lot to, like, push for the European side of things to, like, get things going, and that's really sure to help, like, follow up with the boon that this series has gotten, so it's nice that, I really do hope he's doing okay. That's pretty much like the gist of what I'm trying to say, because I don't think he deserves it.
Somebody said he has a stint with a mobile game company, so...
Okay.
I guess he's working with a mobile game company. I wish it was a console game company, because I personally mobile games, but, you know, at least he has a job.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I'm very happy for him that he's still working with games. Like, again, that's a stereo thing that really should have happened to anybody, but... Ended up being not Sakura, but we were talking about him. Baba, yeah. It's really unfortunate. Oh my gosh, I'm lost. I thought I had this down pat, but I'm lost. We already spent 30 minutes here, according to our expedition. Ooh, Valkyrie's Kriya's Trinket. Very nice, very nice. Grits and Guts. Yeah, let's bring him up to a Martian subcontinent again. Okay, hold up. Let's see where we're going here. So, I just broke the 2 crystals. I jumped down the hole twice. So, this was the place where I was with the hole. So, after that, I need to take the right teleport to go back to screen 8. So there's a right teleport somewhere. Is this it? I guess this is it. So this is the right way. And then now I have to go to the house icon. Okay, I might be on the right track now. Alright. Anywho.
I mean, at least this game has like mini maps and stuff. I remember getting lost in the dungeons and graces because there are no maps.
Oh yeah.
And like a lot of the dungeons and graces have like sort of copy paste hallways, so you just have no idea where you are. Like I remember like Botha's Citadel or something. One of the dungeons on Fodra. I remember getting lost in that one. And also early on, I remember getting lost in Wallbridge. Like everybody remembers Wallbridge.
Yes. I think I had the footage recorded earlier today, where it's like I was like recording scenes with the breaks. It's like, oh, you know what? Where's the save file at? Wallbridge? Okay, let's record that. Big mistake. Let's start it with like what I thought was gonna be like 30 or 40 minutes ended up being like 2 or 3 hours. I'm like, well, I'm already here. We might as well try to finish this puzzle. But yeah.
Yeah, it was like, there's like, we need to go to the northwest place, you know, but it's like you can't actually get there. You have to like go up a floor and then down a floor and then walk across because you can't go through this door. You can't go through that door. It's like, yeah.
It's like prototype elevation puzzles, like because like this topic also came up yesterday too. It was like prototype elevation puzzles that you see in Exilia.
Oh, and speaking of Exilia, where you're playing Jude's side and you have to go through the, what was it called, the fortress to rescue Mila when she gets captured. You remember the dungeon I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that one absolutely sucked. I remember getting lost the first time I played that.
I think a lot of it like was like the block. Okay, I'm gonna bring up block pushing here because I know block pushing puzzles aren't bad, but because our first game for Symphonia, I feel like first off, how do you feel about block pushing puzzles in Tales games?
I mean, I feel like the only game that really used a ton of them was Symphonia. Like they're pretty sparse in Abyss and Vesperia. There really isn't much at all, and but like I do think like the block pushing thing was just sort of a common thing of early 3D games.
Was it?
Yeah, it was like just having blocks and interacting with blocks. It was sort of a common thing in early 3D gaming, and I feel like since Symphonia was the first 3D game in the series, they're like, well, this is an easy object to make in a 3D environment, and we can use it in different ways. And like using the Sorcerer's Ring, I actually really like the way the Sorcerer's Ring functions in Symphonia. I wish there were there was at least another game in the series that did stuff like that. I think that Symphonia has the best dungeons in the series. There are a couple that are annoying, but like once you know what you're doing, those don't really, they're not an issue anymore on further playthroughs. But yeah, like I would prefer for there to be more variety, you know. Like, you know, if a game in the future were to have more involved dungeons again, I wouldn't want them to just do block pushing. No way. But like I do want more involved dungeons.
My only biggest thing about Symphonia's dungeons, like, yo, people can keep bringing up Emir Forest, but that's not bad at all, in my opinion. Same with the Latvian Gorge. I personally don't think too much about it. I think Temple of Darkness is stupid fun, because, like, you can see, like, the AI just going all wacky, and he's like, oh, I think it's kind of endearing and stupid.
That one kind of annoys me because it's not within your control.
Okay.
And also, I swear, in the Chronicles re-release
they made them dumber
and forward, they were worse. The shadow blobs are worse at following you. And I don't know why they did that or how that happened. It must be a bug or something, but that's annoying. They already weren't great, and now they're worse. But like overall, none of the dungeons in that game really upset me anymore. It was only on the first playthrough, really. Like, Ymir Forest is actually really easy if you take the advice the game literally tells you to just follow the blue butterflies.
Yeah.
You won't get lost. But nobody reads that, including me the first time I played the game. I immediately forgot that advice and got mad at the game. I spent like 3 hours in that dungeon. But now it's pretty painless.
Kind of reminds me of, like, the other dungeon, Legenia, but before I get to that, I think, like, the reason why I bring up those dungeons, the one dungeon that, because like I keep replaying the GameCube version, I never went back to Chronicles for a long time, but the GameCube version, the one dungeon I always don't like, and people in the marathon know what I'm going to refer to right away because like it keeps coming up. It's the sewer. I
knew you were going to say
yes,
Tokyo
yes,
Sewer.
Yes, I hate it every single time. I'm like, if ever it feels like I don't want to play Symphonia again. It's like, if ever I pick up Symphonia, there has to be somebody right beside me, and they have to do that puzzle, because I'm not doing it anymore. It takes way too long, and it's scarred my impression.
The problem with that dungeon is even if you know exactly what to do, it's tedious because you have to slowly push the block on that upper level, shrink yourself, walk across the spider web, make yourself big so you can pull the block, and do that to get it all the way to the end. You have to do that repeatedly.
I don't even have to be playing it, and the way you're describing it, like I can already see it in my like mind's eye. It's just please stop.
I mean, like, has there ever been a good sewer dungeon in the history of RPGs? I don't think so. Like, they're either just sort of like nothing, like you just kind of walk through them, or they're annoying. There's never like, oh man, this was one of the best dungeons in the game. That never happens in an RPG. Never.
All right, I'll give you that. Granted, my spectrum of comparison is like limited to Tales. I barely play any other JRPGs, so that's kind of like on me. But are other JRPG dungeons and sewers really bad?
I mean, like they're like I said, they're either like kind of nothing at all, like, you know, there's not much of a dungeon there to begin with, like you just kind of walk through, or they're bad. Like they're never great. You know what I mean? It's never like the highlight of a game.
Alright. I guess the only other one that could reference is like Chrono Trigger, because I remember that having a sewer and like, it wasn't insulting, but they're just encounters and nothing more. But yeah, okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah, somebody in the chat just said something they hate in RPG dungeons is when you have to do puzzles and random encounters trigger. Yes, I agree. Like if I have to solve a puzzle, I don't want to get attacked. It's so annoying. It breaks your concentration. Then you forget what you were doing, and it's just sort of frustrating when you're trying to do something and then all of a sudden the screen flashes and now you're in a fight.
Yeah, it's such a change of mentality, and I feel like it even like translates more so to Tales games because like, you know, you're going into like combat. You gotta like get yourself ready. You gotta make sure your positioning is right, like real time and all that. So it's like, for me with these games, like I'm like, there's a lot of times where I'm like, what do I do? Where am I going? I end up going backwards and running into another encounter. I'm looking at you, Legendia. You know what you've done. You know what you've done.
The encounter rate in Legendia. Oh, it's just trying to take a few steps.
You know what? You have to have holy bottles because holy bottles practically puts it down to like the regular rate it should be versus.
I don't know what Destiny PS1 is like, but Destiny DC, like Eclipse is saying in the chat, also has this issue. Really high encounter rates.
Oh my gosh, DC 2? Oh no. Well, I mean, I played a bit of it. I kind of saw it, but you were gonna say?
Yeah, and also you can get wrecked in certain situations in DC if you're not prepared. Like that game is hard. Like you can die in normal encounters if you're caught sleeping at the wheel.
Oh no! Oh no! Okay. Well, I'm planning on playing that with friends, so hopefully that won't. Hopefully one of us is gonna be awake when we get to encounters. All right.
Yeah, that's why I'm glad that the series moved to like having enemies appear on screen. I always prefer that in RPGs. Is like you can see the enemies, you can avoid them if you want to, and fight them if you want to.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's always going to be like a common thing with these games as we keep going through them. Because like, as much as like I could like make the arguments like, oh, you get to play the battle system more with the R games because they don't have those encounters on the field. It's like, yeah, but they're still random. You know what? Actually, the dungeons in the R games they're not particularly long, so I'm not too.
Yeah, they're not too bad.
Yeah, yeah. So like, I don't have that problem, but. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much what I'm trying to say. We're here at the final boss, final dungeon. We're at the end. We finally made it. Took us maybe 40 minutes, so that wasn't too bad than 30, but... let's get this thing going. Final boss.
I remember when I first got here, and I was playing on hard mode, because I usually... Or actually, maybe I was playing even higher than that, because you can unlock the higher difficulties on the first playthrough in this. But I was playing on one of the higher difficulties, and I got one-shotted by Insubstantial.
Yep! Yep!
And I was like, wait, what? It happens to everybody.
It happens to everybody. Happens to everybody. That's why, like, whenever I see... Because it's localized to insubstantiality, it was like...
That's right.
Yeah, it's really not fun. It's not fun at all.
Yes. Boom. Boom, dead.
Yeah, pretty much. Let me see if I...
Yeah,
if
you
I
gotta
got
have,
this right
like,
here.
you should put Magilu in the active party at the start, just to deal with that.
I could,
Up to
but
you.
the thing, my strat here is that I'm going with the Velvet to just constantly distract, Lafinominat. And other than that, like, everybody else could just focus on, Artorias, because he's really not a threat in this. Lafinominat is a threat.
Yeah, exactly. He's the real threat.
Yeah, because if you get caught by one of those, everybody dies. Alright, I'm gonna make sure that... Because I wrote a lot of notes for this, because I knew, I'm like, oh no, I don't want to deal with the little child that's basically like Genus. No, I call him Genus, but... I don't know, I don't like Genus. What do you think about Genus? No, maybe... do you like him or do you not like him, first off?
I mean, Genus gets a lot of hate. I don't feel like he deserves the hate he gets. He's not like my favorite character in Symphonia by any stretch, but I mind him. Like
Okay.
I honestly don't mind him, and I understand why he is the way he is. Like his character makes sense.
All right, that's fair. Feel free, maybe go off a little bit more, because like I did go off a bit on Genus throughout the marathon sometimes, so maybe we need a little bit of a balance sort of thing.
I mean, like he's smarter than most adults. He knows, and he's a child. I mean, he lives in a world where he's harshly segregated again, so it makes sense that he doesn't trust humans and feels, bitter towards them. And like everything about him makes sense. Like people go, oh, he's racist. Blah blah. It's like, what do you mean he's racist? He lives in a world that hates him for existing. Of course, he has some resentment about that.
That's fair. Often I think I'm amongst like Genus haters and whatnot, so I don't really hear too much from the other perspective. So I'm glad you're able to bring that along as well. Because yeah, that is fair. Like the world does not like him, and the fact of the matter is he is still a kid, so it's gonna be more affecting his psyche and whatnot, and that's why he sort of behaves that way. If I'm on the right track.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Let's see. Mint WW says Genus has completely natural flaws, but he's a good kid. Exactly. Like,
all right.
Yeah, a lot of people just hate on kid characters if they aren't, always like adorable and kind and sweet all the time. They're like, no, Genus.
I usually hear it the other way around. Because like people don't like on L and people don't like Kamoana, and I think like they're a little bit more on the level of like, oh, I see those kids often, and where I like used to volunteer and work at. So it's like
I think people don't like Kamalana because her English voice is annoying.
I've heard kids who have voices like that. I've seen kids like that. So I you know, I think that might be the point.
But yeah, I didn't mind her, but I played in Japanese, so I don't know. But I've heard clips of her in English, and her voice is kind of grating.
That's fair.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't know. People hate, like, you know, I hated Carol when I first played Vesperia, but by the time I finished the game, I realized I was wrong. Because A, he's really useful in combat, and B, he has a great character arc, and now I love Carol.
Yes.
I was just an edgy 15-year-old teenager when I played Vesperia the first time. So I was like, man, I hate this kid. He's such a wuss.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes. Like when you start off, it's like, oh, all of these kid characters are so wimpy and everything. Sorry, Velvet theme count. We're now at 25 times that it's played in the game. We've been doing this since the start of the marathon.
Oh wow.
Yeah, 25. But there's one thing we're gonna have to hear here, because we also have a count for the question, why do birds fly? Only 5 times, not too much.
That I don't even understand the point of that question, to be honest. I feel like they wanted it to be profound, but it doesn't work.
Not in the middle of
it barely makes any sense.
Oh my gosh.
I don't even remember what the final answer ends up being.
Well, Velvet will say it here shortly. We're gonna hear why do birds fly?
You think that's how Artorias picked up what's her name, Silica? That's his opening pickup line.
No, we already saw what happened. Like, we seen the flashback. He doesn't say it, unfortunately, but I mean, it would have been funny.
Maybe that's what he said to other girls in the past. Like, why do you think that birds fly?
Oh dear. He's gonna pick up line. That's amazing. But yeah, Velvet theme we've heard it 25 times. Like, we've reason why I've been picking up on it, because like I remember hearing it a lot in this game, and I wanted to make sure.
It is kind of a meme, but I actually do like the theme.
Oh no, like there's nothing wrong with the theme. I think we've also established it a lot, like throughout this game. It's like we don't mind the theme. Like the theme is good. The theme's actually really good. It's just the amount of times you hear it. It's like, oh man, they like the theme too.
Then I'll just have to hit it again and see if that helps.
There you go, Laffy set. Which one would you say is your favorite character out of this cast? I think I asked this before. I didn't quite.
No, actually, no, you didn't.
Okay.
That's a good question. I mean, I like the whole party. It's hard for me to pick a favorite, to be honest. But if I had to pick, I would go with Eleanor, I think.
All right.
Which is not who I expected to like the most, but I ended up liking her a lot.
Oh, and there's Velvet's answer. Birds fly because they want to fly. They don't need a reason.
They snap and doom them to die. They don't fly for anyone's benefit.
Yeah, let's.
They don't fly because they were ordered to. Birds fly because they want to fly, and for no other reason.
That was our climax, everybody. That was the whole reason why I've been hearing that question from the very beginning of the game.
Because that's who I am.
Did it make sense?
Did you see the screenshot from Tales of Cristoria where Artorias asks Vicious the question?
I think I did.
And Vicious is just like, I don't know. Why are you asking me? Go ask a bird.
That's very vicious. That's a very vicious response.
Artorias is like, perhaps you were not the right person to ask this question.
That's perfect. Yeah, the game goes into some very interesting choreography, I like to say, for the beginning before the start of this final boss. It's kind of cool, to say the least. I like it when Tales like to explore a little bit more with like this mocap action scenes and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, especially like ever since like I guess the Xilias onwards, they really got good with it.
Yeah. And I remember like some of the Vesterias were pretty good too, but they kind of explore a lot, even though like they don't happen too often in this game. When they do, they really do go off like this.
Yeah.
So sorry. We kind of got distracted. I got distracted with regards to the question that Velvet was answering there about birds. But what was it that was unexpected for you with regards to Eleanor that you suddenly thought you'd like afterwards?
I don't know. I find her very endearing. I like how don't know. I like how she's not just like the goody two shoes character of the party like you would expect her to be, like the straight laced. We have to be prim and proper. Like she kind of deviates from that while she's in the group. And I appreciate that. I also do like the side quests with her, where like you find the monster that killed her mother, I believe.
Ooh, sounds really good. Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, she's a character that basically desperately wanted to cling on to a righteous worldview, but it gets challenged, and there is like darkness inside of her, but like she still maintains her. I mean, she still retains her righteousness, but like sort of changes and evolves.
Yeah. I'm actually really looking at that side quest because like I do like Eleanor's character arc. I think like I gave it more to Laffy sets at the end of the day that I ultimately liked out of the entire cast, but Eleanor's was certainly a close second for me, I like to say. And Act 3, like in main narrative, it doesn't really give her too much to work with because it's mostly about everybody else around her. Since Act 2 focuses on like her more than Act 3, but yeah, it's like it dives deep into like her past with her mom and whatnot. That I'll need to look into that then.
Yeah. I can't remember if that monster also... I think that monster was also what gave her the scar. Remember she shows like her scar at the episode?
Yes, yes. Wow. So you just gotta like confront that and everything and like get a resolution, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I keep saying, I like the whole party, so it's hard to pick the favorite, but like, you know, Eleanor only stands above the rest by a tiny bit, but like I could easily pick anybody.
Right.
Like, I mean, I like Rokuro a lot, but like I said before, I do feel like he's underutilized from a narrative standpoint. I feel like he has the potential to be a super interesting character, but they just don't really do much with him. But I do just kind of dig that he's just sort of here to kill his brother and fight strong opponents. He's kind of like a Saiyan, you know, because he's a warrior.
Yeah.
You know, he's just like, yeah, I just want to fight strong dudes. And like I remember thinking it would be cool if like Rokuro returned as like a sword dancer in a future Tales game.
Ooh.
If he was the sword dancer boss, you know, like he's just like over the years he's just sort of transformed into a sword dancer. Like that'd be so cool.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sick. Holy smokes. I guess with like Rokuro, yeah, like exactly what you said. It would be cool if they have explored that a bit more. Again, like I haven't really played too much of the side quests. So Eleanor, so you said you really like the entirety of the cast. What would you say would come to mind as I wait for my item timer to go down and watch Laffy said die? Thank you. Okay. What I like to wonder about is like, because you say like you like all the characters here as like your favorite cast and whatnot. Then in that case, besides, will Rokuro be considered your least favorite of the cast, or is there somebody else?
That's the thing. I don't really have a least favorite. Like they kind of all equalize. You know what I mean? Like they're all good, and nobody's my least favorite. They're characters, like I said, I wish they had done more with narratively or gone into more detail with. But there's nobody in this cast that I dislike. There's nobody. I can't really say there's a least favorite.
Okay.
Like this is probably like the most equalized party in terms of like my feelings about them in the series maybe. Because there's usually at least like some characters I feel a bit weaker, or maybe I just like, you know, I like them all a lot or whatever. Like I don't know. This one, I feel like they struck a really good balance.
All right. Would you say it's your favorite cast in the series, or does somebody else or some other game like overpowers it or something along those lines?
Ooh, yeah, that's tough. Picking my favorite cast.
Yeah.
I mean, this is definitely one of my favorite casts in the series, even though Berseria is not one of my favorite games in the series. I do like the Berseria cast a lot. I do feel like they could have done more from a writing perspective with certain characters. As I mentioned before, I don't think the whole Flynn Yuri dichotomy is handled super well, but like I still like, you know, Yuri a lot. I like Judith, Raven, Rita. I like everybody in that game. I like the Symphonia cast a lot, but I don't know if I would say they're my favorite cast overall, even though that is my favorite game. I do think that they are mostly all well written, though.
Okay. So you're kind of tied between Vesperia or Symphonia, or is this game still gonna overpower it?
It's hard for me to say. I really like the Innocence cast, as I said before. Like that is a very good cast. Like I would say it's sort of between Berseria's cast, Innocence's cast, and Vesperia's cast, probably. I'd say it's between those three, and it's hard. I can't really pick one out of those three.
Sorry, did I hear Zestiria? They all sound so similar.
Yeah, they also sound, no. I said Berseria, Vesperia, and Innocence's casts. It's between those three, I think.
Berseria,
With the
Vesperia,
runner-up
Innocence.
being Symphonia.
Okay. I like Innocence. I played it like 6 years ago. There was a translation guide I followed of the DS scenes, and there was like a blog that had the R exclusive scenes translated, so I had like a good feeling for the plot, but maybe I need to revisit it. But I felt like they could have done a little bit more like the past and present self sort of thing. But that's just probably.
I wish we had gotten to. That's like I was saying earlier. I wish Innocence was longer, right? Because I feel like it would have been cool if we had gotten to play as the past selves during parts of the game. Like, imagine how awesome that would have been to like see the old world play as Asura and what was the red-haired
Inanna.
Yes, and like if you could have played as like the old cast, that would have been really cool. Yeah. But you know, it was a bite-sized game. It was originally made for the DS, like the original DS, and then they made it for the Vita. So I understand why it's a shorter game, but like. And they're not going to remake the game twice, from the ground.
Yeah,
but
unless you're Fantasia, but
yeah, I mean, I'm happy with what we got, but yeah, it would have been cool to get that extra stuff. Heart's cast is kind of strange. I don't like Xing at all very much. Like, he's fine. He's just kind of there to me. Like, yeah, I don't find him to be an interesting guy. He's like the most shonen generic protagonist. I feel like, probably in the series.
Okay.
At least one of them. And I hate his outfit, which has nothing to do with, his character. Like, his outfit makes no sense in the world that he's in. Like, why does he have a Yu-Gi-Oh outfit when he lives, like, out in the middle of nowhere on a beach? Like, what's going on? I hope he survive. Dang.
Well, honestly, the Mystic Arts aren't really a big issue here. It's more like insubstantiality. Like, it's been a common thing in these boss fights. In Berseria, watch out for that one spell, basically. And here it comes.
Xing's Soma looks like a... wait, is it called a Soma or is it called a Spearia?
Soma.
Soma, yeah. Xing's Soma looks like a dual disc. Like, it has to be on purpose, right? Like, it looks like a Yu-Gi-Oh character. It's so weird.
I think the parallels... Yeah, go on.
Yeah, and by extension, I don't really care for the Xing Kohaku romance. I'm not one of those people who feels like romance has to be there or automatically gets excited just because romance is there. It needs to be good, right? And I don't feel like the Xing Kohaku romance is that good. It's not offensive, but it's not really great because I feel like Xing is pretty generic and Kohaku is also pretty generic. I like Kohaku, but she's not like an amazing character or anything. She's just kind of a girl who likes miso paste?
Yeah, she does like miso paste.
And is a good person? Like, that's kind of her character. She doesn't have that much of a character.
I think the thing about Hearts that really got me was like the sudden change from Act 1 to Act 2. It's like, I did not expect it to go that direction. I'm like, alright, I'll roll with it. If you remember that transition.
Remind me, like, what's the point exactly you're talking about?
The point where... how do I describe this the way that I want to describe it? Basically... When involved in another planet.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I mean,
like,
the villain of that game kind of reminds me of Mythos in some ways.
Okay.
Kind of have similar motivations and a similar fixation on a female character who is like sort of in limbo. They have that sort of same thing going on.
Oh yeah, you know what? Yeah, that's a very good comparison there. Yeah, it does sort of like draw that parallel.
Also, Creed's voice actor. I forget his name, but I love that voice actor. He plays like Roy Mustang in Fullmetal Alchemist, and he's Zamasu in Dragon Ball Super.
Nice.
I don't know if you're familiar with him, but yeah, he's got a cool voice.
I've heard of Zamasu. I only watch like old school Dragon Ball, so there's only so much that I can like remember from that. But yeah, I've definitely heard of Roy Mustang, so that's kind of cool. Sorry, like when it comes to Japanese voices, I'm not particularly as well versed as I would like to. But
yeah, no problem. I mean, everybody has their own preferences. I'm just a huge weeb. and I studied Japanese in university, so that's when I started importing the Tales games to help me practice.
I heard, because like I tried taking Japanese a bit, and then that was like the realization where I'm like, oh, I'm not really good with languages in general. But when it comes to, I keep hearing like it is a good way to sort of like learn Japanese when you like pick up games and stuff like that, because they sort of like have a bit of a awareness of what kind of level of Japanese you should know.
Yeah, I mean, like the way I did it is like I bought Vesperia PS3, like I imported it when I was in my first semester or second semester of studying Japanese. Yeah, it was my second semester of studying Japanese. I was in university, and because I'd already played Vesperia, on 360, I knew that I wouldn't really get too lost in the game, even if I didn't understand, right? And so what I did was I would write down every single word I didn't know, which was, at the beginning, was a lot, because I was still in my first year of studying Japanese.
Right.
So, like, every time a word came up I didn't understand, I would write it down, then I would write how to pronounce it in hiragana, and then I would write the English definition, and I kept a list of all those words. And at first, there were so many words I didn't really understand, but as I continued my Japanese studies, and as I continued playing the game, like, by my second year of studying Japanese, I understood most of it. Okay, and it helped a lot. I think it actually put me ahead of a lot of my classmates, because like I was doing extra studying basically while playing games.
Yeah.
I learned a lot of words and vocabulary that other people didn't know.
Man, that's really good. Because like playing the games, I hear because I know people who know who play the Japanese and whatnot. Like it's really cool to see like that really does help out at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it's helpful to play games where you can control the flow of the text. So, in Tales games, you can turn off the auto advance, right, of the text, so that it won't go to the next line. That way, if you didn't understand something, you can sit there and look up the word, pause it or whatever, and then let it progress when you figured out what the line was. It will be challenging when, a word pops up that you don't know and they didn't say it out loud, because then you have to, try and look it up somehow. But it's hard to write kanji on the computer, if you don't know what the kanji is. Because if you don't know how to pronounce it, you can't find it.
I remember kanji being a
physical dictionary.
I remember kanji being a really hard thing. Because you have to be mindful of all the different strokes and their order and if it doesn't have I forgot what they call the text on top of the kanji, but if you don't have that,
furigana.
Yeah, furigana. Thank you. Yeah. If you don't have that, it's gonna be really rough, essentially. Unless, like you said, if you just keep going through it and hearing it certainly does help, with the lines, from what I heard from other people.
Exactly. Being able to hear the characters say stuff out loud as the text appears on screen, it's super helpful. Then, when they say a word that you didn't know the kanji for, you hear them say it out loud, so now you know how to pronounce it, you can look it up, find it, write it down.
Yeah. It's so perfect. Yeah. You know what, CP, you're kind of saying more about how you picked up Japanese too, Radicals. Yeah, Radicals, I was I couldn't quite grasp it. It's there's 3 and there's 4. It's oh my gosh, it's hard for me to pick up. So that's why I have all the more respect for those who get it, faster than I did. Because it's it felt like it was a lot to understand, for me at least.
Yeah, actually, I'm a little disappointed in some ways. I mean, it's great that we're getting Arise simultaneously with Japan now, right? We're getting these games simultaneously going forward, most likely. But I am a little disappointed because, it used to be my excuse to import the games and play them in Japanese first and, practice like that. I mean, and now, when they bring the games over localized, they don't always have the Japanese text option in them. I'm hoping Arise does, at least on Steam. Have the Japanese text option, because maybe I'll do that at some point. I'll play it, with English text first, and then replay it with Japanese text later.
Yeah.
Just to get that practice in, And also, you know, I did a review for Berseria and Berseria back before they each got localized.
Yes.
So I was like the only English language review for those games on YouTube for a while.
Yeah.
But now, you know, everybody gets the game like 2 weeks or whatever in advance, and you saw like today there's like 1 million reviews up on YouTube already. So
Yeah, I can kind of see how that could be a little bit bittersweet, but hey, at least you can like, oh man, like yeah, that's right. Arise is coming out at the same time, like in Japanese. Like holy smokes, what a time we're living in right now. It's so hard to believe.
The closest we've ever come to this was Vesperia 360, where we got it like 2 weeks after Japan. That was the closest, but now it's literally same day.
Yeah, it's crazy to even consider about. Like, that was the closest we ever got, but sometimes we wait for, like, a year, maybe 2, sometimes 3. I don't think we ever gone to 3, but it was still, like, it still was a long time, bottom line. So.
Races might be...
Oh, that's right.
Because, yeah, 2009 for the Wii version of Races, and then we got the PS3 version in 2012, so it was almost 3 years.
Yeah, very much almost 3 years. Man. Oh, man.
But in hindsight, I'm glad we didn't get the Wii version, because apparently that one was really buggy. And also the PS3 version has the whole extra chapter, like the future arc and all that.
Yeah. So with this fight, we got rid of Laffy Nominat. I want to call him. I called him Little Brat in my notes because he's very annoying. And once we got rid of And once we got rid of Laffy Nominat, then you gotta take out Artorias. He's really easy. You shouldn't have an issue taking him down unless you get caught by the occasional stun.
I really like. Is it still called ambivalence in the English localization? The claw art that you just did on him. Like, you know, when she finishes her mode against his finish.
You know what they called it?
What?
They called it the program we're using right now.
Discord?
Oh yeah. Let me show you. Let's get it out there real quick. There you go.
Oh. Okay, yeah. In Japanese, she says ambivalence.
Oh.
But yeah, like I just love how she screams during that.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. You know what? I think I like ambivalence a little bit more, but maybe that's just being a little bit nitpicky. But Discord's not bad. Discord's not bad. What would you think? Would that be not bad, or would you have preferred something a little bit more?
I feel like Discord makes more sense, but ambivalence sounds cooler.
Yeah. It's like a rule of cool, basically.
Yeah, that's often the case with like Japanese names for these arts, like especially when they use English words for the arts.
Yeah. Like, a lot of the time, it's like, yeah, it doesn't make sense, but hey, it sounds cool. Like, I don't know, like, this is probably, like, maybe the second person asking this, but have you ever heard of, like, Department Heaven or anything like that?
Department Heaven?
Yeah, it's like an old school, like, well, they're JRPG games made by this company called Stain. They do, like, have you ever heard of Riviera or Igdron Union?
Yes.
Okay.
Riviera. Okay.
Because, like, that company is well known for, like, using, like, English for a lot of their quotes, and it still keeps some of it for the most part. And it's like, oh my gosh, it sounds so stupid, but it sounds so cool at the same time. I wish I could remember some examples off the top of my head, but, like, they were really known for that. But yeah, like, maybe ambivalence, maybe Discord is okay to make the jokes and all that, but hey, ambivalence is still a pretty cool original term. What would you say, because, like, you played the English game after playing in Japanese, right?
Yeah, I played this in Japanese first, then I played the English version. Yeah.
All right, because, like, I had this question come up, like, when I spoke to other guests who've played the Japanese version before the English. What would you say was the most the most interesting localization portion of the game that you wouldn't have expected, essentially?
I'm not sure if this answers the question properly, but, like, I do always notice, like, weird things, like, going between these games, jumping between Japanese and English versions of the games and stuff, like I often have, like, nitpicks with some localization, and then other things just kind of confuse me. Like, I remember I played Exilia 1 in English, right? And then I imported Exilia 2. I remember being super confused about certain terms, because they changed the names of things. Like, for example, in this game, Inominat is called Kanunushi in Japanese. So the name is totally different, right? Huh. And, like, I remember in Exilia 2, they kept saying Akunoa. Akunoa. I was like, what the heck is Akunoa? And then I realized they're saying Ark Noah, like Noah's Ark. And then I realized that's what they call Exodus in the Japanese version.
That's so weird.
Yeah, because like it took me a while. I was like, what the heck? They keep saying Akunoa. What the heck is that? And I was, oh, it's Noah's Ark. Oh, Exodus. I get it. A biblical reference. And they changed it in English. I guess Noah's Ark was too on the nose.
Yeah. I feel like that. I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but based on what I've seen, it feels like a lot of Japan, when they use English terms, they are always on the nose, it feels like.
Yes. Because, I mean, it's a foreign word to them, so it sounds cool. Yeah, Super Saiyan, yeah. A lot of location names in Chile are completely different in Japanese. Like, Fenmont is called Irufan. You know, like things like that.
Wait, what's it called?
And, Irufan.
Oh, okay.
Like, IL space FAN.
Ilufan, got it.
Yeah. You know, things like that, just totally different. Yeah, we do the same thing with Japanese words and other words.
Pretty much. You know how many times you see, like, Japanese tattoos, like, all over the place? It's everywhere, and yet they don't know what it means.
Yeah, sometimes they've got, like, toilet and kanji on their body they don't realize. It's something like that.
Oy vey. Oy vey. Alright, well, so we just got rid of Phase 1 as the final boss. I mean, are you surprised there's a Phase 2? I don't think anybody is, but basically, Phase 1 is pretty much, like, very easy. No, very hard because of freaking Lafinomi not here. But
yeah, Phase 2 is actually easier.
Yes, it is very easy, but just considering that, because I'm going with, like, 2 times experience, hard, like, running into 0 encounters as much as possible, so I'm kind of a little bit under-leveled a bit, but the only thing is...
to defend herself with the comb.
To distract Lafinomi, most likely.
Okay, so it was on purpose. Okay.
Yeah.
Velvet.
So there, that's the reason.
Why do you have my comb? That was the comb that Laffy gave me.
Wait,
Not you.
does Inominat? Do you know if he has the same voice or a different voice actress than Laphicet in the game?
Are we talking about Laphicet in the party?
Yeah, like are the two of them? Do they have the same voice actors or the different voice actresses?
Laphicet currently in the party, and Lafinominat we're seeing right now. They do have different voice actresses. Yes.
Just making sure because they almost sounded similar, but I because we're talking over it, I couldn't quite tell.
Right. No, I understand, but yeah, they definitely do. I believe. And oh no, I'm not gonna remember their names, so never mind. If anyone can remember, like, bring up the names of the 2 characters, feel free to post it right now, because I don't want to be, like, wrong at this point, that's for sure. But they're definitely 2 different voice actresses. The one thing that was very peculiar to me, like, when I saw the voice actress of Lafinominat, like, say, oh, is that the question again? That's 7, isn't it? Okay. So the first time, like, I heard, like, the voice actress of Lafinominat, like, tweet, it's like, oh, hey, guys, I'm voicing Laphicet in this game. It's like, check it out. I was thinking, okay, but doesn't your character die in the beginning? So I was like, I'm glad you're happy, but it doesn't seem like you say much. But then, like, you learn that I was like, oh, now I see why you're so happy about it. It's just the little things, you know. I still didn't expect, like, Laphicet to have, like, or Lafinominat to have this whole, like, big role at the end.
Which reminds me, how do you feel about the censored version of that scene? It's so weird.
No, you know why? You know why? It's because of, like, the gaming ratings in this game. Like, in outside of Japan. Like, I looked into it, and, like, a lot of games are, like, rated mature. Like, they don't really like dealing with, like, kids getting shot or kids getting stabbed or anything like that. So, like, you see it a lot, and you see, like, first-person shooters, they often just cut away and see the result.
Yeah.
So,
what is this game rated in
T for T.
US? Teen? Okay, so I guess they
So
wanted
they
to
definitely,
keep it teen.
they definitely
They
can't.
didn't want
No.
it. They didn't want it to go up to M.
You can't even, like, do that in M.
It's just weird. Oh, I'm sure you could do that in M, right? Because so many horrible things happen in M-rated games.
But when it's involving a kid, that's a different thing. It's like one game that comes to mind was like what's the name of the game?
I'm sure it varies by country as well, and they just wanted like a blanket version for all Western countries.
Oh, fair enough.
I feel like you could probably get away with it in America. I feel like we're very liberal with violence in our media.
In movies, I could say in movies, because they have a different rating system, but not the games ESRB. I think they're a little bit more strict about it. Like, that's what I got from what I looked into. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can't really think of any examples where you see a kid gruesomely murdered on screen. Like, even in, like, The Last of Us, I mean, I guess spoilers for, like, the first 20 minutes of Last of Us, but, like, a kid gets shot, but you don't really see her get shot directly in the moment. Kind of cuts away for a second, and that game's rated M.
yeah, see, if like Naughty Dog can't get away with it, then Tales definitely cannot get away with it. So, like, that's pretty much like my perspective of it. Japan has Zero, so they go a little bit differently, of course. So
Yeah, because they got like A, B, C, D, and C.
yeah, pretty much. Like,
I forgot what this is rated. It might be C in Japan. I'm not sure. I know that Xillia 2 at the time, Xillia 2 was the highest rated, which was age ratings in Japan. But I don't know if this got the same rating as Xillia 2 or lower or higher.
I'm not gonna be able to help at this point, man. Like, I don't usually buy them in Japanese at this point. I remember,
Yeah,
like,
I just downloaded it, so I don't actually have the box art of this in Japanese.
yeah, fair enough, fair enough.
I'm gonna look it up.
Okay, it's like, so this boss here, like, the weakness is gonna like be the same, but like it's gonna change fates throughout like all the other bosses. But the changes are very much peculiar. But you shouldn't have too much of an issue with this boss. It should be fine. He looks scary, but he should be fine. Unlike Plume, Dallas, and Fantasia, that's a different story altogether.
Yeah, Kerplop. Yeah, that's what's weird about the censorship in this game to me, is that the censored version drags out the scene, and he gets like impaled by multiple light spears. So it's almost worse. The only thing that changes is that it's not like direct; it's just indirect. But it's like, I don't know. I feel like that made it worse in some ways.
ESRB is
also
weird.
makes the scene. It makes the pacing of the scene really bizarre because they slowly turn, slowly lift up Lapis, and then he gets impaled, and then drop it. It just kind of kills the flow of the scene for me.
Yeah, I hear you. But no, yeah, ESRB is just weird, I want to say. Because, like, it's kind of like, I guess you could say, I don't know what I'm bringing up, like, PETA. It's kind of like they got, like, it's like, this works, this doesn't work. It's all just, like, dependent at the end of the day. But sometimes it seems like it would look worse, but as long as they show it happening, then, hey, that's what lets them keep their ESRB afloat. So, I guess it works. I don't want to say it works, but it seems like it works for them. That's what they really care about.
Well, one of the weirdest things, actually, we were talking about localization stuff earlier, is Resurrection is called Raised Dead in Japan.
Yeah.
And Revitalize is called Resurrection in Japanese. So it's like that kind of bothers me when I found that out, because it's like, if there's already a move with that name, why did you do that? It's confusing.
Maybe they don't want to reference to, like, somebody dead in a team game. That's my guess.
But, like, they still have, I don't know, Resurrection, like, I mean, that means bring somebody back from the dead. Like, I don't know.
Yep. ESRB could be, I don't know.
They could have called it something else. I doubt that has to do with ESRB. That was just due to early Tales games had really random localizations. In fact, even now they still have really random localizations. Because, like, in the Xilias, there's all kinds of inconsistencies. like Alvin has Light Spear, but he calls it Tornado Drive, and then Ivor has it and calls it Light Spear, and it's like, what?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I definitely agree with it being more so like an old school, like Tales of Quirk and whatnot, like them calling it Resurrection instead of Raised Dead. I don't know what happened there at the time, but
yeah, it used to seem like this would pull names out of a hat. I mean, if you look at like the Destiny PS1 localization, they call Demon Fang Missile Sword.
Beautiful.
But
I love it.
Then in Eternia, the next game they call it Sonic Blade. It was just random. It was just whatever. Just call it something.
You know what? Like a part of me likes the whole missile sword thing because it adds to the quirkiness of that PS1 game. But yeah, honestly,
it's funny.
Yeah. Like, I feel like if you're finding consistency in, like, localization terms, like, you're not gonna find it in the Tales series. Like, it's always gonna be different almost every single time. Like, at this point, I'm already just numb to it. So, I have no real opinion at the end of the day.
It also kind of bothered me that, like, in Xillia 2 and, like, Berseria, somebody on the localization team was really fond of the word apocalypse, and they put it into, like, 10 different arts across those two games. when the word apocalypse had nothing to do with any of those original. It was like, what's up with you? And it also bothers me because the word is too long and didn't fit in the amount of time the characters had to say the lines. Like when Luger goes into like his corpse shell mode and does that like big AoE hit attack, and he goes Apocalyptica. It's like the actor has to say it so fast because there's not enough time. Because in Japanese, there's only 2 syllables there. He says the end. That's it.
Oh, was it the end? Well, it was the end, wasn't it? Oh my gosh.
The end.
And Apocalyptica! Oh my gosh.
And Apocalyptic's fourth on. I was like, why? That one also bothers me because it's all of Rowan's Mystic Arts is supposed to be in Italian, but there they like kept it half Italian and then half English by inserting the word apocalyptic when it wasn't there originally. It's like, what are you doing? It doesn't make it sound cooler, right? Like, are you 13 years old and you're like, man, apocalypse is so cool? It's like, that's how it comes across to me.
maybe to look like, well, I don't want to speak too much, but maybe they're just having a no good, very bad day, and maybe they just wanted to share that with whoever was playing the game. Well, that Mystic Card hurt. Well, let's just.
I wish the boss fights in this game were more satisfying. I don't know exactly what it is, but I don't really enjoy the boss fights in this game as much as a lot of other Tales games. They're just kind of, I don't know.
No, I agree with you. They're very much more.
Words.
They're very much more like the same strategies. There's not much to it. They use break soul. You gain a soul. So when you're playing as Velvet, especially, I mean, Velvet breaks everything. So let's be real.
Yeah.
Like, even when you're not playing as Velvet, the fact like this system is very easy. Like that's very much like a very shared opinion amongst everybody. But I mean, like the ideas are there, but they could have done something a little bit more with what they did. But clearly, you can tell like this game came out like within a year after its announcement. So it's you can tell it's like one of those games.
Yeah, I mean, like, the combat. I wish there was more depth to it. It is very much. There is one flow, and you repeat that flow over and over again. And it's also a very momentum-based game where, like, when things are going your way, they go well. But, like, if you get stuck in a situation where, like, your whole party is, like, down to 1 soul or something, like, it's hard to come back from that. It's hard to regain momentum.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And you know what, like, if it's easy, yeah, it's easy. Like, it's fine for, like, those, if this is your first Tales game, sure. We're just talking from, like, perspective, like, you know, like playing the other games and like comparing it from this one to that one. 'Cause, like this is very much on the easier side of the spectrum when it comes to combat and difficulty.
Yeah, I feel like Arise. Have you played the demo, by the way, for Arise?
I played a bit of it. I didn't play too much of it because I don't want to screw up my momentum with the marathon games. But what would you like to say about it?
I feel like Arise really addresses a lot of the issues I have with like Berseria and Berseria in terms of combat. Like they brought back normal attacks. You can manually jump again. You can do aerial combos. Like the you know, like it feels like there's a lot more flexibility in how you fight. I feel like once you get skills as well, you don't have access to like the passive skills in the demo, but like I'm sure in the full game, once you have those skills, it'll open up the combat more and stuff. Like I feel like I really enjoyed playing that demo, like I more than I was expecting to. That is good. And like early reviews that are coming out seem to be mostly positive, so that's also good. So I think we're gonna be in for a good time as Tales fans.
Yeah, like I remember when I was like booting up the demo, like I did not expect them to like give us so many tools like right away. I was like, I feel like I need to spend more time on this than two because I'm only expecting 2 hours, but I feel like I should spend like a couple days worth on this because like there's like so much to explore and like they don't even give you like.
Yeah, like I played the demo multiple times.
Yeah, like there's only like so much like I feel like it's like I know they're gonna do like in the main game they're not gonna like just throw you in there. Obviously, you're gonna be learning about the skills, you're gonna learn like all that stuff. But like when I got the demo, like man, it's like the best demo we've had for a while. Like holy smokes, like you can do anything in that demo, like in terms of the gameplay. So like it's so. Oh, I wish I was doing well, no, we're doing the marathon for all y'all. We're celebrating Tales of Arise, but if I had more time, I would have loved to have played it before the game's release, because it was a really, really good demo.
Yeah, but I mean, tomorrow you can just play the actual game. Even better.
Yeah, exactly. We gotta come. Well, I'm waiting for it to come out on PS5, so I'm waiting till the 10th, but For those who are playing it tomorrow, hey, more power to y'all.
Yeah.
Alright. Honestly, this boss fight is just more the same. I don't know what else to tell you. It's just, all it is mashing, using your break, so rinse and repeat. I could have used another character. Yeah, I could have used another character, but this is Velvet's story. You gotta end it with Velvet, after all.
And this game has the thing where you can, like, if everybody has enough blast gauge, you can just string together Missigars back to back to back to back.
Yeah, I could do that, but I remember, like, Eclipse mentioned it in the chat before, but I don't remember the command for it. I think you gotta, like, hold L2 while moving left or right?
Yeah, I think hold L2 and then you just press the D-pad, like, you know, and you can go through the line pretty much.
Yeah, as long as everybody has the BG for it, basically. Which I think doesn't look like he has, so maybe I'll give him a boost, just in case. Oh no, I don't have any arcanes. Never mind, I guess I can only do, like...
You can press down on the D-pad to use, like, Rokuros, and you can use Eleanor's and Lapisets, because they...
Oh, okay.
But Velvet doesn't actually have enough.
Yeah, let's fix that here.
You'd have to either get her to 3 or start with somebody else.
Yeah, there we go. I don't know if I'm gonna do it right though. I might do it wrong, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, you just do one discard. It's not like it's a bad thing.
Yeah, basically. Okay. Yeah, I mean that's why I do like the narrative of this game. The narrative, like, I'll give my full thoughts when we get to the credits. That's what I usually do. But the narrative of this game, I do really like. It's just the gameplay is just so boring. Like, I get it works.
It's fun the first time, but then after that, it's like, wow, there's actually, like, nothing changes. What I like about a lot of other Tales games is, like, when you replay them, you learn new things about how to play it, learn new things about how to play the other characters. You know, but with this game, once you've seen it once, you've seen it all.
Good point. I could definitely apply that association with the Tales of Berseria. First time I played Berseria, I did not understand the skill system at all. Didn't have those, like, my first Tales game that I was playing again. So, when I picked it up last year, I got a bit of grasp of it, like, oh wow, I'm actually understanding this game. Like, I'm learning all these things about, like, manual cancel and the battle book and everything. It's like, it's a lot of fun, and then, like, learn more things this year during the practice. Like, I could go back to it gameplay-wise, but narrative, it looks like I didn't. Why is it with the Tales games, like, oh, there's a good narrative but not good, like, battle system, or vice versa sometimes, too. It's just, I wish it was just, like, one game that could, like, accomplish it. And for me, I think, like, maybe Eternia, maybe, but the final boss left a sour taste in my mouth. Everything else about that game is good.
For me, it's Symphonia, because I know some people go, oh, Symphonia's gameplay is trash, it's so dated, but to me, it's still fun, actually. It's a little janky and dated, but not too much. Like, I actually think, I don't know how unpopular or popular of an opinion this is, I think Symphonia is a much better from the gameplay perspective than Abyss.
Really?
Yeah, like, Abyss added free run, but beyond that, I don't think Abyss is better from a gameplay perspective at all. You only have 2 categories of arts in Abyss. The skill system is bad in Abyss, because you have no idea what skills you're going to get unless you look up a guide.
That is true, yeah.
So you won't even learn how to chain more arts together, because you don't know how to get those skills. And then, like, Luke is probably my least favorite protagonist to play as outside of Surae. Because Luke's moveset is really dry and boring and feels unfinished. A lot of the movesets feel unfinished, including like Anna's and Natalia and everything. Like, I don't think that the combat in Abyss is that good. It's sort of fun, but it just feels big. It needs a bit more. It was like they didn't finish making it, is how it feels.
Right.
And actually, they didn't finish making it because the Japanese version of Abyss on PS2 didn't even get all the arts. They didn't get, like, all the music arts and stuff. So, like, the American version of the PS2 version of Abyss actually has stuff that the Japanese version doesn't.
Yeah, it does. I was it's kind of funny because, like, with the 3DS release in Japan, it's like, oh, look, we got all the US stuff. So it's like, oh, that's kind of cool, I guess.
It's the first time that the shoe was on the other foot.
Yeah, right? That was basically the first time. Yeah, but no, you know what? You bring us a good... Like, I haven't played this since, like, the second marathon. That was, like, 7 years ago, so I do want to revisit someday. But some of the things that you bring up, I do remember. Like, well, getting the skills, I remember some of my characters not even having item thrower, like, close to the end of the game.
Yeah, the first time I played the game, only 2 out of 6 characters had item thrower in the final boss fight. Like, that's ridiculous. Item thrower should not be a skill that you can miss.
Yeah, and just to accentuate the point as to how easy this final boss was compared to Vesperia and Eternia, we were able to have that entire conversation while we were able to finish this boss fight.
Yeah, you basically just autopiloted the fight.
Yeah, pretty much. Not a single light bottle was used during phase 2, I think. All it was just like revives and nothing more.
Is it alright if I BRB real quick?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Oh, actually, you know what? I really like this, what's it called? This final sequence that we see with Velvet going on here. This is actually, like, adding on to the whole, like, portion with, like, the choreography and whatnot. She, like, gives us some weird, like, wrestling maneuvers, I want to say, because I see, like, quite a bit of pro wrestling. So, she goes for the arm, and she goes for the other arm. And, like, what are you going to use right now? You know what, Velvet? You should probably think of a good idea. Maybe you should, like, think and use your head! Alright, timed that a little bit off, but you know what I mean. And basically, she headbutt, and I don't know what this is all about, but you know, get him out of the armatus and all that. And, finally, do a flip kick, like, somersault kick, hammer knuckle, and then this final stab right over here is pretty sick. Ayy! Crazy, crazy, crazy kill.
A true hero.
It's what you told me once, long ago.
Yeah, stab was pretty brutal, yeah.
On the day.
Alright, that's 26 times we've heard Velvet's theme as well. Thought Berseria's demo was pretty good. I guess Berseria's demo was pretty good. I think that you get a lot more tools in the Rises, though.
Died that day.
And then there's going to be a lot that's going to be unpacked in this part of the story, like once things get wrapped up over here, that's for sure. Because when things get transitioned over to Tales of Zestiria, they're really going to start setting up a lot of things here.
I thought the same thing so many times.
I also like this too, because like Velvet finds peace with the entire arc that she has, like for the start of the game up to this point. So, especially when you see like how she is from like Act 3, this is like nice to know that she has accepted what she has done, and now she's pushing forward for her family.
I wanted to save.
Yeah, I've returned.
Welcome
Some
back.
time for Artorias' death.
Such
Yeah.
a pity.
What's that, like, Velvet crying on? Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, it totally is. I was just coming on, like, how, like, the choreography, like, up to the moment with the stab was, like, pretty sick. Like, it felt like pro wrestling moves right there. It's so good. So good.
Yeah, it's true. This entire situation, Mooktail's pointing out, could have been avoided if the family just communicated with each other.
I'm hungry.
I think the stubborn kid had something to do with it, because the stubborn kid wanted to, like, oh, I can save the world my own way, and, like, basically convinced Arthur to do it, since he was also in a vulnerable moment as well, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think essentially it's like, I mean, like I was talking about earlier with, like, the important moment where Lapizet pulls Velvet out of her, like, mind break state, is like, her family didn't trust her, and that's what hurts her the most. Like, they basically thought she couldn't handle the truth, and so hid it from her.
Yeah.
I endured
It also helped.
They didn't tell her that Lapset was going to die of the disease, and didn't tell her about, like, the whole plan or anything.
It's also a thing as well, because I think, like, I don't know if it's like how the line was in Japanese, but there was a thing with like Artorias was talking about, oh, I need these 7 cents for the Therians or whatever, and like the first Therian that they wanted to use was like Velvet, so I think they need to fuel the Therian for Velvet because they need to keep her in the dark to get that fuel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they weren't originally going to make her a Therian. That happened
right.
Because she witnessed what happened and attacked Artorias, and then it kind of, they weren't originally going to do that to her.
You know what? That's a good point. I guess it kind of happened like happenstance. Like she happened to be there, and they. I mean, what did they expect though? Like, I don't know. Like maybe they definitely didn't plan it, but certainly they stumbled into it. That I could agree with.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess they could have communicated, but if they didn't communicate it, then we wouldn't have no Tales of Berseria. So,
Yeah, but I mean, that's usually kind of a flimsy hand wave.
I
But
suppose.
yeah, it's alright.
I suppose. I mean,
I think I think it's easier to explain it as like, I mean, it was a lack of trust. That's it boils down to that. They just didn't believe she could handle the truth, and they hid stuff from her.
yeah, it's
Caused a lot of trouble for the whole world.
pretty much. This family didn't trust each other as much as they like, essentially. Yeah, I mean, things could have definitely been avoided if they had talked. Like that, I could definitely agree with.
I'm not scared of dying as long as I'm with you.
How old is that apple?
Not too old. They just found it before they went out, because I think it was like one of the ship crew. They found the apple, not the fortune apple, and then they just kept it. So it's fairly recent. Fairly recent.
Okay, that's
Kind of seems old considering how many apples we've seen throughout this game. I know, but yeah, it's definitely more on the fresher side of things.
But despite all that,
good. Fruitbomb says, "Don't worry, Soraya will save them in the third game."
Yeah, just you have to. Also, Mooktail's key item that we keep bringing it up because, like, prior to Berseria's release, everyone was thinking, "What's the meaning behind this apple? Like, there has to be something to it, right?" But when the game's like, "Oh, there's nothing to it, nothing to it at all."
humans spend their lives in constant struggle.
So yeah, like Velvet's gonna dedicate herself to essentially just keeping the world safe by sealing Inomina, essentially. So. Hey, more power to her for finding a way to end this family feud once and for all.
Please live. I was the cause of so much chaos and destruction.
And she realizes her role right over here too. So it's nice to see that she owns up to it after everything that happened between the first two acts.
The weak.
Yeah, it's a form of atonement, I
This
guess.
is
Taking
my
responsibility.
last selfish request.
Yeah, those little things and whatnot. Also, Well, how do you feel about Lafisa's arc throughout this entire game? I think he was like my favorite. Yeah, no, he's definitely my favorite. But what do you think?
I mean, I like him. I think his arc is well handled. Like he learns stuff from every member of the party. Like, he has a connection to everyone in the party. Yeah, he learns stuff from Aizen, from Eleanor, from Velvet, obviously. Magilu, I don't know what he learns from her, but yeah.
but he certainly learned from a lot of the other characters. That's for sure.
Yeah. I like how he starts off as sort of like
I love you too.
a blank slate and sort of forms and becomes a person over the course of the game.
Yeah, like it's like really more punctuated when you think about like at the start of the game where like you see the voice direction and how it's very emotionless and like lifeless even, and like as the game progresses, like he finds his voice more, and you see a change of battle where he doesn't really use his voice often either.
Relax. These are the 4 elemental Empyreans.
Now you show
The elemental Empyreans, all used by former Abbey folk. Kind of ironic, but oh well.
Without Innominat, the balance
I wish you got to see what they looked like.
Yes. Yes.
You don't see them in Zestiria either.
No, you see their guardians.
Yeah.
No.
Would have been really nice to have seen. I was like actually looking forward to it too. I was like, oh, I can't wait to see the Empyreans. And like it's just a guard. It's like, oh, well, that's not the same. You kind of like built it up too at this moment. I also do like how they're all like voiced by all the Abbey folks that were used for the Empyreans and whatnot. It's a nice little touch.
Hold on a second, Laphicet.
Yeah.
You can't just.
Let's hear him out.
Oh, and here's where Laphicet makes his big decision.
You're not lacking in strength. But the question here is one of your
I
intent.
think this is Shigure talking?
What do you wish for this world?
And this one's Teresa, more familiar.
To its denizens.
Sorry, I say this, but you're so used to the Japanese dub, so...
Yeah, I don't actually know what Shigure sounds like in English.
Yeah, my apologies. Have you seen the One
I know
Punch Man?
Brina Palencia is Teresa.
To give those who dream of flying.
Oh, okay. I actually can't really associate names of voices because it's more like of a fresher crew, I want to say, but I know that like it's Max Middleman as Shigure, if that name sounds familiar.
I know the name. I can't immediately think of what the voice sounds like. But I definitely know the name.
One Punch Man dub, if you've ever seen the dub.
I have not watched any modern anime dubbed. Pretty much.
Okay.
Like dubbed anime for me, like you'd have to go to like 2009 and earlier, pretty much.
I see. I don't think I've heard Max Minimum around that time, so unfortunately I can't associate.
I know I've heard Max Middleman's thing.
Alright.
Oh, he's in Legend of Heroes, Trails of Cold Steel. Who was Lecter? Oh, he's Ryuji in Persona 5. I've definitely heard clips of Ryuji in Persona 5 in English.
Ah, there you go. There you go. So here's the beauty of Luffy said, bringing his silver flame across the world as he accepts himself as the domain of the Empyrean.
But he's basically what allows shepherds to exist going forward, right?
Yeah.
Give them the purifying flame.
Yes.
Is that like that's the same flame that Saray and the others use to get rid of the aliens?
Yeah, to purify the malevolence. I forgot what malevolence was called in Japanese because we were just talking about it yesterday, but
It's kegare, which actually, going back to the localization discussion, that's something that you can't really translate into English, which is part of the reason it's even more confusing in the English versions for English speakers. Because it's a concept that's sort of ingrained in Japanese culture that just doesn't really exist in Western cultures. But I think a better word to use would have been impurity. Because malevolence in English implies intent, like ill intent, right? Something
Right,
that's
right.
evil. Whereas impurity just means it's tainted or unclean, which would have been way more accurate, I think.
Really, Luffy said?
yeah.
They should hire me for the localizations, I swear.
like I think we were talking about it with like Lumina yesterday too. It's like, oh, we also that same topic came up too. It's like, oh, malevolence really doesn't imply that as well. Where it's like it implies evil or something like that. So, yeah.
That's not what it is. It's more like impurity or uncleanliness of the soul or the heart.
Demons,
Yeah.
malevolence.
Oh, I'm getting some emails about the collector's edition of Arise. My apologies. But yeah, no, I definitely do like agree with that because like when I played through Zestiria, the topic came. I was like, oh, I feel like they should automatically be evil, but if you're not so evil, why are you? It's like it kind of got a little bit tangled when I was playing through it the first time. Impurity is definitely a more better way to go about it.
Another chance at life. Isn't that right?
Sorry. Looks like
Oh, hearing this, have you seen the Zesties Across anime?
Part of who you are, Rokuro.
Which anime?
still a soft.
Zestiria the Cross? Sorry, I short form it Zesty sometimes.
Is that the? I mean, that's just the anime, right? Like the.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I did. I watched the whole thing. That was an interesting ride. Like the first, they had me in the first half.
Yes.
Like the first season was like, wow, they've like actually improved on the game, and then the second half, it just like the train just went off the tracks and weird stuff just started happening. And just like in the game, despite all the differences, they still failed to make time for Aizen.
Well, I mean, there was one episode, but after that, they just did little tidbits. So yeah, I see what you're coming from.
Yeah, like they still don't bother trying to purify Aizen before going to the final battle. They just completely leave him alone, and then they have Dragon Aizen go like Edna at the end. It's like, oh man, the anime is so weird. Like Saray becomes Captain Planet, fuses with all the sheriffs at once. Alicia confused all of a sudden. Lunar, the fox dude, just suddenly becomes a good guy for no reason, but he's off screen and just dies off screen, and then they find him in the snow. Like, huh, what was he doing here? Ezel dies for no reason in the anime because they're like, oh wait, I'm not supposed to still be alive. Let me just go and kill myself. And everybody stands there and watches him kill himself, and then they just progress like nothing happened. It was the weirdest anime.
Yeah. All right. So Tales of Berseria. So just to go over my thoughts for this game one more time. For the credit sequence again, when I came back to this game this year, I did have a bit more of a appreciation for it, because, like, again, for what it sets up with regards to how it made me want to replay Zestiria and all that. So it was nice to sort of like revisit and realize bits and pieces about this game and how it connects to Zestiria. Afterwards, when I replayed Zestiria because of this game, Zestiria in itself, I had a better appreciation of it compared to when I first played it in 2015. A lot of the thoughts in 2015, it was like, it was after I played 3 Tales of games. It wasn't particularly, what are the words I'm looking for? It's not particularly what I would be the best scenario to play Zestiria after all the other games that I played through. But overall, I thought Zestiria was a little bit better for me in terms of understanding the narrative and whatnot. So when I went back to this game again and looking at it, it's nice to better appreciate the connections, because the big thing about Berseria is that it got me to play a game that I thought I didn't like and thought it was like the worst Tales game ever or something. So what I like to credit Berseria is that it gave me another reason to replay Zestiria. And I know we've been providing different opinions about Zestiria throughout the marathon and whatnot, but at the end of the day, if I do recommend maybe giving it one more chance, Zestiria, if ever you didn't give it a second replay, because I feel like after playing Berseria, your opinions might change a bit. It might be the same, but results may vary, is what I'm trying to say. So ultimately, I do appreciate Berseria for letting me replay Zestiria, but when it comes to the gameplay, it's still very easy. So it was the least exciting in terms of like setting things up compared to like games like Vesperia and especially Eternia. But overall, like, I still like, narrative wise, it's still really good. I still like Velvet's arc. I still like Eleanor's arc, and particularly I really do like Lafisa's arc. The other 3 characters are just kind of there for me. I still call it like Exposition Eisen as our alliteration for him. But otherwise, like, I still think it's a solid narrative. I still put it on like my tier 2 for the reasons that it does for the narrative, and for me having to replay an older Tales of game that I would think of a little bit more better afterwards. But gameplay is pretty much like its only flaw for me. Everything else I still really like. The shoutouts, the callbacks to previous Tales games as its main narrative, and the expeditions and whatnot, and the mini games coming back. A lot of good stuff, and overall, a very solid experience despite what I feel about the gameplay. Sorry, you should go.
Do you prefer Zestiria's gameplay over Berseria's gameplay?
I'm going to say I do prefer Zestiria's over Berseria's at the end of the day.
That's interesting.
Yeah, no, I do. I think like a lot of it, because like I know we talked about how amortization might just be like outclassed at the end of the day, at the end of the game, but I still do prefer how like you're supposed to like think between like, oh, do I armatize or do I not armatize to use like spells, or do I use like martial arts afterwards? And like I can see where they're going for it, and like if linking has to be a thing, I think they particularly perfected it best. Like, maybe perfect is a bit too much of a strong term, but they refined it best, I like to say, compared to like the other 2 games that involve linking.
Yeah, I mean, I already said it earlier, but I prefer the way linking is handled in the Xilias by far compared to the amortization. Although, I don't know if you've heard before, but like I remember reading at some point that the very early concepts for Zestiria's gameplay design was for the Seraphs to sort of function like stands. Are you familiar with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure at all?
Yes, I'm aware of bits and pieces.
Yeah, so like the Seraphs basically would have like hovered near human characters, so you would have like 4 human characters with 1 Seraph each attached to them, and so like they would be part of your moveset. That sounds really cool. Rather than like just having 2 fused people on the field, I think that actually would have been way cooler, but it didn't happen. Yeah, like exactly like Personas. Personas are basically just stands from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Oh, okay. So they initially had the plan for them to behave that way, as opposed to like directly fusing with them or something.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And Arise. Yeah, I think Arise definitely does more to make you actually have to pay attention during combat, at least based on my impressions from the demo. So that was another thing that I really liked. Is like you will get knocked around if you're not paying attention. You can't just mash buttons like you can sometimes in this game.
Yeah. Like, from what I experienced, it does seem like with the demo, I have like good impressions about Arise's combat, so I have no qualms of it feeling like, oh, it's gonna be the same like Berseria or something along those lines. So I do have high hopes for it once I get around to it, but Yeah, I'm just glad we moved on from whatever Berseria was at the end of the day.
I like this ending credit sequence. It's kind of bittersweet because you're seeing the adventure that they never got to go on together that they talked about at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Like if Lepset had actually recovered from his illness.
Yeah, yeah. I think like that, like that's what they're sort of like the whole point of them dreaming or something about that too, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think that's like what they're sharing in that current state. Basically, they're just sharing adventures that they could have, as you mentioned. Yeah. It's very nice to see. It is very bittersweet, but you know what? Like, I'm okay with this ending. It makes sense, and it connects to what happens in Hysteria afterwards.
You say Mint says Tales games always have bittersweet endings. I don't feel like they always do. There are several of them that do, but they don't always.
Yeah, unfortunately, like as much as like endings would be a very fun topic to talk about, unfortunately we can't really like go too deep into them without getting into like the whole spoiler territory and whatnot. But yeah, there's certainly like cases here or there where it's like sometimes bitter. Well, oh jeez, now I'm tempted, but oh.
Yeah, I feel like most people here are familiar with a lot of the games, but you know, I don't have to go into it.
Yeah, no, I understand. Oh, they referenced River Unitia. I don't know what's the copyright. Duh. The one of the islands they had like the two mascots. They were like something you pick up, I think.
I don't actually remember.
Like it's like the green one and the blue one. You remember what I'm talking about? If you remember River Unitia? No?
I mean, I know River Unitia, but I don't remember the reference to it in this game.
It was in the expeditions, because I think that's why all those Tales games are there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like the expedition had like a sort of like some kind of statue representing both of them or something along those lines. Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely liked the nods with those islands, the expeditions. It is a shame. I remember when they first announced this game, people thought, "Oh wow, are we gonna get to sail around the world?" And then they like confirmed, "No, you won't. Don't get your hopes up," because like they did not want a repeat of the like sort of hype cycle and disappointment from Berseria. So they just came right out and said, "No, you won't be sailing around the world. It's just gonna be like a point and click."
Yeah. It's more like a sort of a proxy of what happened with like the Kitty Dispatch and Tales of Hysteria. No, not Hysteria, Exilia 2.
No, Exilia 2,
yeah.
Symphonia's ending is pretty much happy. The only bittersweet thing is that a character leaves to go somewhere else at the end.
Right.
And I guess if you took a certain character could be dead.
Yeah, that too. We don't talk about that one.
That was actually what happened to me the first time I played the game.
Oh no! Oh, that must have messed up your perception.
But unironically, the story is better on that route. Like the story is actually better, I think, that way. I prefer having that character alive because I like that character, and it opens up more side quests. But from a purely narrative standpoint, the story is stronger if that character dies.
My favorite character bias is kicking in. Sorry. I can't. It's hard for me to look past it, but I kind of see what you mean. I kind of get it.
I mean, they're basically my favorite character, too. But yeah, like... It also allows Kratos to be feel more, like, involved.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Kratos is just like, oh, I can't do anything. My hips too old.
My hips. All right, so let's go through the final counts we have here. I did add the theme in the ending here. Why do birds fly? We have a count of 7 throughout the entire game, and Velvet's theme, including the credits theme, we are at a count of 27. 27 counts of Velvet's theme being played throughout the entire game. And this game is not as long as Vesperia, so it's a pretty short adventure and whatnot, so it's nice to see. You know what? We have been going overtime with like a lot of these marathon days. Like Vesperia was expected, Eternia was definitely not expected. So I feel like I kind of want to like end a little bit under time. If I hope everybody's okay with that. Yeah, I do want to give some closing words. It's been a fun 9 days for those of you who've been around from the beginning, or just today, or things like that. I thank you all so much for coming along with the ride. It's been a lot of fun revisiting the old Tales of games, whether through the 3 games that were played or through all the break periods. It's been very much appreciated to see each and every one of you joining along, no matter what time of the day. And we're going to be doing the giveaway tomorrow, so when that's going to be streamed, it's going to be dependent on like how my day is looking and whatnot, but expect it around the afternoon or the evening, most likely. But overall, thank you so much to all my guests, including you, Karani, who's also joining with me right now at this moment. To all of you who've watched along, and honestly, it's been fun bringing the event once more for this year for Tales of Arise. So I do genuinely thank you all for taking time out of your schedule to make this marathon a great success.
Yeah, I mean, it's been fun. I enjoyed being a guest on here. I checked out some parts of some of the other streams. And yeah, this was great, and we're all looking forward to playing Arise this weekend.
Yes, Tales of Arise coming out tomorrow for those who own it on Steam or within Japan, the Japanese versions, and on the 10th for those who own it, who want to play it outside of Japan on home consoles. So it's going to be a fun time. It's going to be great to experience the next evolution of Tales. I can't believe
An apple a day keeps the demons away.
Thank you, Kamoana. You know what? Speaking of which, real quick, I don't like what Dial looked like. When I saw Dial's change, it's like, oh, maybe I should have stayed a lizard. But you know, that's how he's born. I can't really fault him on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's cooler to have a lizard man. Reminds me of Soul Calibur.
Yes! Yes! Oh, Lizard Man was the best in that series. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So good, so good.
Why does Magilu have pointy ears? Who knows?
To hide her. You know, that's a good point. Why does she have pointy? Well, it's just her character design. Maybe to accentuate the edges of her character. I mean, I know it's like a cop-out answer, but I can't believe it's just been 9 days of this. I can't believe it's 9 days. All these Tales games we played through, we were managed able to fit them through these 3 days each. It's been wild, absolutely wild. Oh, Laffy no Minot, you are there forever with your older sister, sharing memories.
3 games in 9 days is insane. Like, I don't know how you did that.
That's what they told me last time. 12 hours per day is how I did it. Booking these days off just for this moment. Yeah. It's all thanks to the double EXP as well, so. But let's get the most important message. Laffy will live. Yeah, I'm pretty much all powered down, everybody. I'm going to be counting the entries after all this. And you expect some emails later today. And yeah, I guess this is pretty much it. Once again, thank you all so much, and thank you again, Karani. And sorry, I apologize. Do you have anything that you'd like to plug before we close off? I know I have your YouTube channel that's been going up, Karma Houdini Gaming. Visit that for more of Karani's opinions about the games and some other variety videos, including some translations and whatnot. You also have your music channel. I believe it's just Karma Houdini, correct? If I recall correctly.
Yep. Yeah, maybe just look up Karma Houdini and like music, you'll find it. I do have a cover of Karma from Tales of the Abyss. That was actually the first cover I did. And like Time to Make History from Persona 4 and things like that. And yeah, I will probably do a Tales of Arise review after I've played through the game, so you can look forward to that. And yeah, just stay tuned.
All right. So once again, thank you so much. And yeah, once again, thank you all so much, and have yourselves a good Tales of Night. Adios, everybody.